I'm alive, I do or die. I'm alive, do or die. I'm alive.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. We are live once again with the first episode of season 3 of Crime Theory. John is currently in a car. He will be with us at 7 o'clock, and we'll have Julia come in to join us as well. We have got the wonderful Beverly Rhodes joining the Crime Theory team, giving her insight and her knowledge, the stuff from beyond, from the nether realm. And I'm very excited to have you here. So thank you for being here, Beverly. And how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Ron. Been doing all sorts of wonderful things in the preparation and run up to Crimbo, which is going to be great. And of course, the new year, which is getting ready to move into the new awakening cycle. And that's going to be exciting for next year because we're all going to feel those energies.
100%. And for those of you who have finally had a shave, managed to trim the beard and looking less homeless, feeling good. Got a lot of grown-ups who be grown-up in stuff done over the weekend, curtains and all kinds of stuff going up. The house is starting to look amazing. So big shout out to Dan and her terrifying hormones and her finger of commanding finger, shall we say. But before Julia and John join us, I thought Beverly could talk to us a little bit about what it's like for remote viewers, for psychics, if you will, in the world of crime, in the world of detective work. If you can give us like a broad view and then sort of dial in if you've got any experiences or your team has any experiences or anything like that, because I'm sure we would all love to hear. But before you get into that, Beverly, listen, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe, do all the sharing stuff, and Beverly, let us hear your experiences. Well, take it away on this
All
subject.
right. Oh, thank you, Ron. That's good. It's a really great that we're able to shed a light now on some of the work that we've been doing for the last sort of 45 years, both in this country, in the UK, in America, and particularly in South Africa, and pretty much around the world. It is a difficult road to walk, I think, for remote viewers and those that are tuning into energies and seeing sort of images from various frequencies that are left in the room or left at a scene of a crime. And previously, I used to find that it used to be quite a joke around some of the police stations because they used to say, well, we can't really manage this one. We don't know what's happening. Let's see if we can get this person, i.e. me, if we can get her to come in and see if she can pick up anything and see if she can see any of the energies. And it became a little bit of a joke for only a short period of time. And then I was able to provide all sorts of insights and little drawings and, explain things and then find things that they'd missed in the cleanup team or forensics had missed on specific things in South Africa. And then eventually they realized actually this lady has some value, and not just normal cases, but like special cases, as well as the complicated cases where individuals had been unalived, but more importantly, those where you have, serial individuals that continually create the same crime. And I was really lucky in my time because the police force in that country, the South African Defence Force and the South African Police Force, they decided that they would actually allow, for the first time ever, a person that is not of a police caliber to be interviewed for the police magazine, which in those days, bearing in mind, we are going back like years and years and years. And I was the first person ever that was, the sleuth that was brought in from the cold type of thing and was interviewed for their police magazine. So it went down in history. And then from that time on, they softened a bit. And they were using individuals, remote viewers, and all different types of people that were outside of the police force to come in and help them. So that was sort of the changes that we saw happening with the changes of the energy and how people were perceiving it when they were working on cases. I did get asked a few times, what is it that you see? One of the ones that comes to mind was a very famous case called the Station Strangler. And I was called in to work on that because this chap who was unaliving individuals that were below the age of 12. And he was then picking them up at the station and then taking them to secluded areas and killing them and removing their lives. And what we were doing then is trying to look at different energies that were similar. And what was quite interesting is some of the energies were very similar to the Boston Strangler. So what we did is I said to the police officers, can we speak to whoever your commander is? And can we ask the commander if he can reach out across the pond and see if we can talk to whoever it is that was working on the Boston Strangler case, which we then did. And we had a phone call, and no such things as videos in those days. And we had a phone call and we chatted to everybody else. And there was a lot of similarities with all of the energies and the frequencies and the way that things were working. And then they said to me, if you tune into those frequencies, do you think if we put you with an identikit police officer that does like portraits of criminals, if we did that, would you be able to sort of try to sort of like build up the face layer by layer based on the frequencies? And I said, well, I've never done that before, but I'll give it a go. So I sat with the officer, very clever officer, very talented, and we came up with an identikit. The identikit then went out in all the newspapers, and we had lots of calls coming in and people coming in and saying, well, I think I've seen him. I think he's here. I think he's there, whatever. And basically, he was only able to undertake one further incident. And after that, I went straight to the scene. They took me straight to the scene. That was on a beach. And he'd actually buried the youngster who had been unalived. And I said to them, can I ask you as officers, I won't touch anything. I won't go near anything. I promise you I won't, cause the scene to become corrupted. But I just need to go there and feel the energies and understand it and start processing it. I just need 5 minutes. So they, looked at me, oh God, here she goes. And they said, all right, just go, but don't touch anything, don't go near it, don't do whatever. So I said, fine. And I just stood there, and then I went around the person, and then I moved in a round, sort of across and around and across, all the way around, and started picking up and absorbing all of the energies that were left there. And as I'm doing that, these pictures and these images and all these things are coming up, and I can see. So I said to him, I've got my knapsack, and I sort of started feverishly drawing things. And I was able to sort of do an outline of where the person was and where he was and where the assailant was and all those things. And they said, well, we're going to, bring in forensics now, and we're going to take pictures and do whatever. Can we go back and go do a wash-up session and look at what you've got and how we start reading the scene? So I said, yeah, let's go. So we went back to the station, and I lay everything down on the table. And I said, this is what I see. This is what I feel around the person. And this is what the person saw before. And this is what this person, the assailant, was seeing before. And what was very interesting was I then was able to build up a profile from those direct energies. I was able to build a profile of the assailant. And I then put that down in writing. I said, this is about him. This is where he is. This is what his background is. This is the type of job he does. He lives with his mum. This is the situation. And within about, it was about not even 10 days after that incident, that there was a call that went through to the station, and it actually was the assailant. And he said, she, as in me, she is right, and you're going to end up finding me. So I'm going to leave the country, and I won't be back for some many years. So that particular last event was the last person that will fall foul of my situation. And because I cannot allow myself to be captured, I put the phone down.
Damn. I mean, that's like a movie, Beverly. It's like it really, really is. And the part where you were talking about going into the crime scenes and you were picking up on things they'd missed and all of that, it's just amazing. So one thing I need to sadly, this is something I need to say. So I know a lot of you are wanting Beverly and Julia to meet on a live and all this kind of stuff. That ain't going to happen on a live. All right. And the reason that I'm going to say this right now is when it's somebody like me or Samson or Casabear or people like this, and you delve into an individual, I'm fairly stable. Right. And Beverly and I met a lady the other day, and I put her in touch with Beverly, and she had quite an intense experience today. And she was by any means just as together as myself or Samson. And when it comes to people like Julia, who have a serious past, okay, like there's so many dynamics to it. That is not something for a live stream. Okay. That is not content. All right. That is going to be a serious session, if that makes sense. And it's not content. It's not entertainment. This is like in the realms of very, very serious work for Bev and for Julia. It's not let's have a play around with the Jedi, with Ron or Samson and things like this. It's a much more volatile situation for a live stream. And I certainly am not going to put Beverly or Julia in a position ever like that. So I just want you to know that. And it's not a no. Okay. That's not like Ron, the gatekeeper, is here. No, right. It's just there's some things that we can all enjoy, and there's some things that we can even be empowered by. And this would be not one of those occasions. This would certainly be something where safety and a lot of additional factors would need to be put together. So I just wanted to say that just before the side chat goes bananas, okay? Because we're only 12 minutes in, and it's going pretty bananas. So also as well, just to remind everyone, the wonderful Mr. John Wedger will be returning this evening. Yeah. He is currently driving, like I say. I'm so excited to see my guy. It's been so long. Talk about some crime stuff that's
happening
and isn't necessarily 100% Diddy related. It's nice to take a break. So
well, I've worked with John for quite a few years actually, and it's going to be really great to see John, because we've had lots of encounters, lots of all sorts of amazing things, and gone on these literally down rabbit holes and looked at things. It's like, oh my goodness me, it's going to be great to see what he's happy to talk about and what he's not. And the good thing is that because he's ex-copper, it's nice to know that he always had that open mind and that he's open to understanding it. And the good thing about John is when he doesn't understand something, he'll phone a friend and he'll say, I'm looking at this in front of me. What is this? What on earth is this? What have I got? Can I touch it? Can I prod it? Can I pick it up?
This is it. Sorry, Ron's just going. This is Ron's new. He's having some Capri Sun thing that comes up on the screen. So let me ask you some other questions. Let's go off of your own personal experiences for a minute. Tell me about some of the legend, because obviously in the Muggle realm, right, there's legends, there's mythology, but imagine in the X-Men realm, okay, in the school of in this realm, there must be some legends. There must be some moments that people have solved a crime, or there's been somebody who's been found, or I mean, obviously what you said is incredible, but is there anything that you've heard that makes you even go, all right, fair enough? Or is it all fairly standard? You know, I mean, I'm not, and when I say standard, I'm not in by any way belittling anything. It's just, I'm just trying to get a scope here. Has there been any?
There have been, there have been. There's some that I've sort of looked and thought, oh, that's pretty neat. You know, I would have liked to have been part of that project. That's a really great project. Yeah, so that there have been some where I was just absolutely blown away. There was two really that come to mind. One was we were asked to find some specific submarine that had gone missing during the Great World War II, and they couldn't find it. Individuals couldn't find it. And I'm not really a major techie type person that can, understand things like submarines. So it's a big piece of it's like
I'm a techie. I'm a techie guy. Yeah, a smarty tube. Yeah, I'm a techie guy, and it is out of my realm.
Absolutely.
So don't be too hard on yourself.
So what we did is we said, well, who do I know that could possibly come in and help? And so we've ended up bringing in a couple of the other people. When I was in South Africa, there was two people that were in the group that I was with who were very talented with remote viewing, but they seem to have a penchant for, ships and steel things and bunkers and oil tankers and oil rigs and, anything to do with like metal with rivets and things like that. So I thought, this chap will be perfect with that, because he's just, he's got that mechanical mind, super smart mechanical mind. So I said to him, would you like to come and work on this with me? And it's just, it's still the Remote Viewing Alliance, obviously, because Remote Viewing Alliance has been going for like 40 years. And he said, yeah, let's go and have a look. He says, oh, that could be nice. And then, of course, the questions start. And I think, oh, my God, here we go. What type of submarine is it? Is it a U-3534? Is it a this? Is it? And I said, you know what? We'll just speak to the professionals. They can answer your questions. And that was it. So that he had like an entire picture of what this sub looked like. And it was actually the U-534. That was on the side of the vessel, U-534. And it was one that disappeared I think just before the war ended or something like that. And he was able then to pinpoint where it was on the seabed. But the sea's a very big place. So he was able to see it, but he then had to work really hard to try and find it. And how he found that was he had to take the sea and dice it into quadrants, and then number each quadrant across the tops of the sea, and then work from a 50,000-foot view looking down, pinpoint the quadrant, and then go into the quadrant, and then look further to see where it was within that quadrant. And eventually what he did is he was able finally to say, I think I've more or less pinned it down. I think we've got about, a 4 or 5 kilometer radius that it could be within that area. And so what we did is just, right, let's get this information back to the authorities, got it back to authorities. And there was a lot of toing and froing at the time, because they were like, do we actually send a Hercules aircraft out there to go and have a look? Do we need guys hanging over the side and looking down? Anyway, needless to say, they did that, and they started searching for it. And cut the long story short, the U-534 was found.
Damn.
That was one of the great ones. I mean, Anton did a great job.
So is there just when you were talking about submarines and metals, right? Is there metals that are easier to remote view than others? So for example, you know how some metals are like alloys and man-made, and some come straight out of the ground, effectively, right?
Mm.
Is there a difference?
That's easier. You're right. You nailed it straight away. Alloys, something straight out the ground. Awesome. Very easy to find. It's the off-worlder stuff that that flummoxes us a bit, because it doesn't vibrate and it doesn't oscillate at the same level. The frequency is different, so it can be a bit confusing.
Well, I got a bit inspired, right, by Marilyn and yourself the other night, right? And Jaguar Wright can confirm this. I spoke to Jaguar Wright after that show, and I felt like I'd had like a multi-pack of energy drinks, and I mean it was hardcore. And I started thinking about the whole energy, residual energy in videos, the whole spellbook concept that we were talking about. And then I realized that frequency, with us all being connected, us having this interpretation that a monitor, and because we can see each other, we sort of degrade it by because it's through a monitor. But I learned two things, right? Because I've been trying to learn some things by doing staring right into someone's eyes and trying to read what is in their head, right? And I'm really good with like 1 to 10, pick a number between 1 and 10, boom, I'm getting there, right? But do you know what I'm learning? It's every single time I was wrong, I got the answer right, but I changed it, and I had the answer right from the start. And I've learned that hesitating in the magic world
makes a mistake. Yeah, that's it.
Is hesitating for a second, right? When we start talking about belief and doubt and intent, if you see the number, say 10, and it's only for a split second, but then like the number 8 for some reason seems super prominent, the longer you focus on that 8, the less important that 10 seems. But that 10 was the one. So that's kind of what I had learned over the last few days that I'm focusing on.
Yeah. So I'm going to send you something now. Let's have a test. It's
God.
one number. Come on. You walked into that one, buddy.
Right. I don't know if we should do this, right? I
don't. Just play. You've got it already anyway. I can see it's plopped in the back of your head. What is it?
Well, listen. No. Well, I'm thinking 117. That's what was in my head. 117.
117.
117. But again, freaking me out, man. Freaking on the spot.
Am I freaking you out? I don't mean to freak you out.
No, you're not. No, you're not freaking me out. I'm putting it's pressure on myself. But look,
I know you don't like pressure.
We can do this, right? So what do you want? Do you want to write down a number? What's the scale between 1 and what?
It's between let's make it easy. Between 1 and 5.
Oh, 1 and 5. All right. Let's go 1 and 10. Let's go 1 and 10. All right. I think.
Okay.
All right. 1 and 10. All right. I'll do this how I did this the other day. So I need to be looking at you. All right. I just need to be staring at your eyes. That's all I need. I'm going to bring you forward on this screen.
And I think our viewers can do this at home as well. So I'm going to send out their energy, one number between 1 and 10. I'm going to send that energy out because I'm more of a sender than a receiver in some cases. And let's just see what that number comes up in your mind and just concentrate on it. And we'll use the postbox effect. So it can go into the back of your head and just plop in. And then you'll start feeling what that number is, because that's the same way that during crimes and visiting crime scenes, that's exactly the same way that I pick up the energies and I feel those energies come into the back of my mind like a postbox.
All right. So I think I'm just gonna put a disclaimer up here, right? So when Ron was doing this before, he was very much not on a live stream. He was channeling what he does. He's delving into various bits and bobs that he uses to expand and focus and block out the mind, right? But and I know I tell you something right now, every time I do this live with Beverly, I'm going to get this wrong every single time. Okay, I'm preparing myself for it. But
don't set yourself up. Don't set yourself up.
I've written my number down here, Beverly. Right. So if you want, so that I can't change it, what was the number? Let's go, my guys. Let's go, my guys. Is it a 7 or a 4? It looks like
It's
a 4.
a 4. It's a 4.
Yeah, and I got a 4 as well. Yes, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
I better wash it off my hand because I just wrote it on my palm. But yeah,
That's what
it's
I'm
a
talking
4.
about.
And
That's
actually, I'd flashed it to the audience before without you realizing that I'd flashed it. So there we go.
Okay.
So that's how it happens. You perceive that energy. You get the energy around a crime scene. You get what is coming to you, and you know how strong it was. How strong it was that 4 came up. That's exactly what happens on a crime scene. How many of our viewers got the 4? Put a 1 in the chat if you got it, because we'd love to know how many individuals got the energy of the number 4. I can't see the chat personally, so I'm hoping that people are replying.
Yeah, we had a bunch of people saying they got it.
Good.
Some people saying they never. I picked 4. I changed it.
Yeah, don't change your mind. Don't ever change your mind. You're right the first time. What comes in first time, you're always right.
Yeah. See, again, I made you full screen. I had my eyes closed for a lot of it, if I'm being honest. I tend to try and center myself and just try and not make a complete idiot of myself on the internet. But we did it, man. We did it.
Well done. Yes. Pagwan.
Yeah, exactly, my G. So we'll give that another go. We've got Big Homie on next at 8:00. We've got the wonderful Julia and of course John Wedger, who's just updated me a couple of minutes. Somebody asked me about Mr. Homie in the side chat. You were worried about what he was possibly doing today. I text messaged with him at less than 3 hours ago. And his text message and his emojis are consistent with Big Homie conversation. So I'm assuming everything's okay. But we will see him within the next hour anyway. So yeah.
So I think if we start looking at, we've now given a demonstration of, and obviously poor old Ron didn't know I was going to put him on the spot like that, but it was lots of fun anyway, which is good.
Hi.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Nice
Julia,
to meet you,
this
Julia.
is Beverly. Now, Julia, I've already told everyone that what everyone wants to see happen isn't it wouldn't be content. It's not something we were doing alive, because I mean, for lack of a better word, you're a God believing individual, Julia, right?
Yeah.
Julia experienced an EVP for the first time, right? Just an EVP, right? So in the grand scheme of the paranormal, the magical, the mystical, right? And how desensitized. I mean, I'm beyond desensitized. Right? So Julia was like the little kid who just won the lottery, right? She's on the phone, she's like, oh my god, I can't believe this. But Ron, you don't understand. This can't be happening, Ron. And I'm sitting there, it's just normal. It's just normal. It's okay, don't worry about it. And Julia's going to try and get those recordings over to me, and we're going to try and clear them up.
Can I send it to you now?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, do your thing.
Okay, Julia, no worries.
So Julia, and I tell you something else. The reason that I wanted to mention this is if Julia sends me and I hear what Julia says she hears, right? This is going to be mental.
What did she do? How come? Did she have an EVP machine? Was she trying to pick up something in her property, or was there why was there a voice that came out?
Can I explain it?
Yes, Julia, please.
I'm still listening. So basically, I turned on the recorder of my phone when I came to Kane and Jerry's house. And next to their house, there were a lot of, when I listened to the recording, there were a lot of noises later. And I opened this on my computer. My friend was next to me. And basically, I tried to make some parts louder and reduce some noises. And then suddenly from nowhere, I heard weird sounds. She also heard it. And then she started speaking with this freaking recording. I don't understand how it's happening. And then some voice of old woman showed up, and it was so creepy. I still have goosebumps when I'm speaking about this. I will show you in one moment because I have to find the recording.
Yeah, no problem, Julia. Don't worry. So
Oh.
EVP is electronic voice phenomenon. So it's you ask a question to a seemingly empty room or no one's there, and the human ear tends to not hear certain frequencies, but the recorders tend to pick them up, and you play them back and you can clear up the audio. If you've ever seen any spirit boxes and things being done or anything like that, ghost hunts, you'll have experienced this. Now, just to remind everyone as well, in about an hour, we do have Big Homie. He is going to be here with Azria for his off-world DNA. I cannot freaking wait for this. Can we get some likes and some shares?
Amazing. Yeah,
Because this one's going to seriously be major, and I can't wait for it. Oh, Julia will be back. Don't worry.
I must say too, Ron, that with EVP, sometimes what we used to do when we were looking at the different crime scene sites, what we would also do is, and this is not common practice. I don't know any officers that are serving that do this sort of thing, but it is something that I used to do with the energies. I used to actually take a dictaphone with me, and I used to take an EVP meter with me to the site, and I would leave it there, and I would say to the person who was unalive, if you would like to say something, or if you would like to explain to me what happened because you have unfinished business, talk to me or leave me a message on the machine.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is we'll go through that message afterwards. And often, most of the time, there was something on there.
Well, listen, I'm going to be updating some equipment. I just need to speak to Mr. Atwood. Right, we've had a couple of good months with Diddy, right? And there's some rather nice bits of equipment that I would like to get, because
we'll need those for America for going on site for the things that are there. That's for sure.
Well, I'd quite like to get Alan on the show, see what Alan has to say every now and again. I imagine it'll be very growly.
I think it will be very growly.
Very growly. Nice for him to be represented. But there's a couple of new, like because I'm pretty tuned in on how to use a spirit box, the ones that are like this. I want to get a new one of those, but there's speakers that you can get that add a very nice filter of like reverb and what the hell is the word? It's not a compression.
Yeah, that flattens the energy. Yeah, that's much better actually. Yeah.
And it puts out a very nice tone. And that's, I'm telling you, that is definitely something I'm going to be bringing. Like I say, I've got probably about 5 years I've been using spirit boxes, and I'm pretty dialed in how to use them. But this is from Will Kleiner. I just wanted to get this one to you. Beverly, what do you make of the Farsight remote viewing group? Yeah. They say some of your friends are in contact with some bad ETs acting good.
They say some of your friends are friends. That's interesting. Some of the ETs acting good. That's quite interesting. Farsight, I seem to think that they're fine. I don't pick up any odd energies with them. Certainly, I wouldn't sort of turn around and say that they're doing anything different to what we're doing. My group, particularly, the Remote Viewing Alliance, at the moment, all of our energies are focused on dealing with and bringing through, children that have either been made unalive or missing children, or those that have been kidnapped and sold into a different type of service. That's what the Remote Viewing Alliance is concentrating on, because we think we can do the most good there. As for them saying they think there's some friends, if Farsight are listening, or if you're in contact with them, please ask them to get in touch with me and tell me exactly who do they think their friends are that are in touch with ETs that are masquerading as whatever, seeing as we know that the Greys are gone, they're not here anymore, and we know that the reptilians are gone. So I'd be very interested to hear what their take is and get a statement from them, so we can have a little bit of a chat.
Okay, thank you, Beverly. Sorry, but I'm just going to put in the side chat a link to a website, right? Ooh. So this website allows you to upload files, and then it turns the file into a download link. It also scans for malware and all this kind of stuff. If anyone has EVPs, if anyone has videos that are too big to email, and only if they're not on YouTube, for example, and you would like to send them over to the show, please use that link and then send them to this email address.
Thank you, Angel Rock. We'd love to see that and love to hear it. That sounds amazing.
And send it to this address. And mods, if you can grab those and just repost them for me as well, that would be great. Thank you, mods. Now, Julia has got 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's 4 already. Yeah, she's working hard in the background here. So, look, I get carried away. Okay, we're here to talk about some crime stuff. John is still on his way, right? I promise you that John still exists. Side chat. Okay, I promise you.
He
okay?
does.
This file is a 6-minute YouTube video. Oh, sweet. Then what to do? Try and post the link into the comments, and it'll probably say links aren't allowed, but the mods should be able to copy the link and repost the link, if that makes sense. So let me know what you're thinking. I'm dialing up the crows as well. Just getting the crows dialed up, getting them shuffling. I tell you what, the murder that lives in there's a murder that lives in the tree right across from my bedroom window, and then the 2 biggest, fattest, most mythological looking crows you've ever seen are in the tree next to it. So those are my 2. But when I say there is no other crows, every other tree is full of crows, right? Apart from the one that has my boys in it.
Yours, the big fat ones. How cute is that?
No, they're the other crows just don't want anything to do with them. They're like, mate, there's something going on with you 2. We're just going to stay over here. I'll get you some pictures of it because it's awesome, man. And obviously, right, for those of you who know the Ron Swanson lore, we spent the last sort of year and a half like sleeping. We had to bring our bed down from the bedroom. That's where I used to podcast from, because Dan one night was lying in bed and swears that somebody grabbed her and tried to pull her out of the bed. But the thing was, I had already done all the things you do when you move into a new house as a little magical individual. And I know how to word things. So there was no one in that house that had bad intentions. No one. So for me, it felt like the lady who used to live here was reliving her life and walked into her room and found a woman lying in her bed. And it was because the way that she was grabbed was like she was grabbed in the hand, which was under the duvet like this, and the hand and the duvet were grabbed, and it was like pulled like this. And yeah, weird. The dog wasn't happy upstairs and all of this. And it was nothing to do with Alan or anything like that. Like the dog had been around, it was sound. So yeah, the upstairs has always been a bit weird, but now it's the best. Like I've never slept so well now that I sleep now up there.
Well, it's nice energies. It's actually really nice energies, especially with all the changes you've made. It looks really nice. All those energies flow, and it's really. Oh, I still got the 4 on my hand.
Yeah, well, Ron's living room's a bit mad. So you've got like
lovely.
A massive coffin mirror that's Dan's with 2 like goat head skulls either side of it that Thor found out in the wild that I cleaned up and stuff. And then below it is just like 6 or 7 huge shelves with lights in them that have got like really expensive collectibles in them. It's so bizarre. And then you've got pink skulls and pink, massive what the hell is it called? Zebra print high-heeled shoe chairs and stuff.
Lovely, really lovely.
It's good. I love it. So
it's good. Have you, when you ask for the extra kit at some point, there is a piece of kit where you can send energetic light beams across a particular area and bounce it off rooms to see what the energy is that remains in the room. That's a really nice bit of cool kit to have. We've never had it when I was still working on crime scenes. But it would have been helpful if we did, because we would have, you can actually plot all where the energy is, and eventually that energy gives you a figure of a person standing there, which sometimes is the perpetrator. So it could be quite good to have something like that too.
No. So the mirror is one thing, right? Because that would be a whole other story. Yeah. Imagine, I'm telling you now, anyone finds a goat head mirror in the woods, just keep going, man. Don't stop. Don't pass go. Do nothing. So no, the mirror was Dan's, because she's a little witchy lady, as she calls herself. She's got a wee coffin mirror. The goat's heads were found by Thor. when we were camping, and got cleaned up and put on the wall. Mr. John Wedger,
how are you?
Look how fabulous you look, sir. It's been so long. How are you?
Hiya, Beverly. Oh, Ron. All right, sorry about that. I got stuck in roadwork, so that's my reason for my tardiness.
Yeah, nice to see you. You're looking great. Gosh, look at you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas in advance and New Year, because I probably won't get a chance. I'll send you a text though, but still in advance.
Yeah. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you. So, what we got going on then, Ron?
Well, we were talking to Beverly about because she is now giving an extra dynamic as we bring forward cases like we do in this series. Beverly will be able to give us her Jedi hands, the hand of the Jedi across the case, and I think it'll be a really interesting dynamic to bring to what we do. But I was talking to Beverly about her experiences with crime and, psychics in general, remote viewing, all this kind of stuff. And she was telling us a little about some historical cases and her experiences. And hang on a second. So that's Big Homie just typing something. Give me 1 second.
So what I was saying, John, was I was explaining, the work in South Africa and how long it actually took me to gain the confidence of some of the officers that were serving officers, because obviously it wasn't in those years. I mean, we're going back a lot of years now, and they found it very difficult. But when they got to the point where they were working on a serial person that was making all sorts of awful things happen to children and leaving the remains behind, they were up against the brick wall, and they called me in to help, and that was what I was explaining.
Well, if you look, there's a guy called Cobus Yonka who runs the Occult Crimes Unit, and they're one of the most successful murder units in the world.
Yeah, they are now. Yeah, he's with soccer, Cobus. Yeah, Cobus is very good, and he was one of the ones that would have given the okay for me to be put into the official South African police magazine. There's a magazine, and they actually featured me in that magazine. And he was one of the ones that, because they had to ask soccer, the serious organized crime unit, because that's who I was working with. Yeah. And that's what they did. They put me in the magazine, and they've never ever done that before.
Yeah, I know. He's amazing, because there was I think someone's superseded him now, and I got contacted by a group in South Africa about 2 weeks ago, and it's all to do with their investigation into occult murders, and there's especially deliverance ministries and things like that, because they get a lot of cases of possession, and the demonic stuff. And it's huge, but the NYPD is the same. They had a unit that was run by a guy called Ralph Sarchi, and it was actually funded by the Vatican. And they sent a Jesuit exorcist priest called Malachi Martin. Malachi Martin. They made films about this guy. He's an unbelievable individual, and these two worked together on occult murders. Beverly, it's really bizarre. The synchronicity is amazing. I was approached by a guy from an ex-member of the British Transport Police, and I worked on a protracted inquiry with this fella for 2 years. He's probably, without a doubt, the best investigator I've ever come across. He's an amazing guy. He just goes by the nickname of Taff, because he's Welsh, but he just calls himself Taff. But he is a world expert on graffiti.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Graffiti crimes. Yeah. And it started off with just criminal damage to trains because of the transport network. Yeah. He then started getting seconded to murder squad units around the world because of occult crime, serial killing stuff. And he solved a serial killing in Essex based on handwriting analysis. And so one of the things that I want to sort of put to you is, have you come across doorbins, satanic doorbins and things like that?
Yeah, I have seen a lot of them, more so when I was in South Africa, because there's particular types that they use there, which is quite different to what we see here in this country. There was a lot in SA when I was out there. But then when I came back home to the UK and started working with various other officers, yourself included, I have noticed that there is a resurgence of particular sects of types, but more to do with the blood rituals as opposed to the general, the run-of-the-mill ones that, that are not really going to create any large crimes, but those that are going to, ensure that there are individuals that are unalived. That seems to be where the focus is at the moment. I don't know how you, but that's what I think.
I think if we can educate the listeners here, that I can remember it was maybe 3-4 years ago that I approached you because we got asked to look at a site where 2 children were believed to have been buried and cadaver dogs had been placed. And when I spoke to you, you were saying the importance of water that is used in rituals, and there was a lake. So I instructed the cadaver dog handler to go to the lake, and of course the dog instantly gets a hit. It's indicating there's something there. And I don't know if you remember that the moment the team went there, there was voodoo dolls.
That's right.
That were all around there, and then there was graffiti on the wall as well, and on the trees, and that formed the eyes, which is
that's it. Yeah,
and you said they were what they call watchers, and they were all around, and it was the most horriblest environment you can imagine. And quite a few people actually got sick. They started getting very ill being there, very repressive. But I've still got pictures of these dolls, and we under your instruction that they got buried, and there was an anointing that went with it.
Good.
But they were made of human hair. I recall that, and they were on a stick, like on a broomstick, swinging from these trees, and there was like bindings around the mouth and around the stomach. And of course that's when I contacted you and asked your advice on what are these things. But combined with that was this graffiti. And then when you look at the graffiti that occurs now in Mexico, especially with the drug gangs, you see these watchers that adore.
They are. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. There is the resurgence of it because they because of what we see happening with the changes of the energies across the world. The piggybacking of that darkness is very easy because the light is not getting through to the level that it should. So you're ending up with these things piggybacking, and that's what you're finding. Like the case you sent a few weeks ago, that thing that you sent me, that was one of them.
Oh,
the eyes. That was. I know you're freaked out about that one.
We couldn't even. I've just had permission actually to circulate that.
Have you? Oh my word!
Yeah. So I may well do that at some point, but they were, because we couldn't determine whether they were organic matter but they were repulsive. They were truly frightening. So I'll explain to people. It was someone approached me that they got caught up with a woman who was a self-confessed Satanist, and she had these articles. I couldn't even describe them. They looked like human flesh or some sort of flesh bound round in balls with eyes on them and actual human hair, and they were awful, weren't they? Awful things. They were true. So we got a visitor, Dzień dobry.
Yeah.
Hi.
That particular one though was that was more not just the usual run of the mill Satan worshipper type person. It was more to do with the blood right person, because with that level, what I saw, what you showed me the pictures of and what we were talking about, that's more the blood right side, and those are a different level of individuals. So they're not those that are.
The woman was a self-confessed Satanist, so this wasn't even speculation. This was a guy. So right, and if there was Julia, where you gone? Julia, how are you?
Nowhere. I'm here.
So, Julia has just put online the transcript of a conversation with Kate McCann.
Oh, that was very good. I wanted to understand, how did the conversation come about? Well, how did, because I still don't know what actually happened. How did you end up having a conversation with her? Because I know She was saying that she wouldn't speak to you.
Yeah, I was waiting for her close to their house with my friend, and she came back to home, and I knew it was her car because I saw their car before the vigil in May 2024. So I just went there. She was taking bags from the car, and I said, Kate. And she turned back and she started crying, and she was saying she will not speak with me. Like I said, only 2 minutes. She said no, but she ended up speaking with me a little bit. So yeah, it was very emotional, I believe, for both of the sides. I mean, for me, for sure.
And what vibe did you pick up off of her?
Not the vibe that you would have for a stranger.
Right, okay.
She was very emotional. I have to admit, I have never seen Kate as emotional as when I met her. All interviews, I didn't watch all of them, of course, but I watched some. I have never seen her in this kind of emotions. So my friend said the same.
Yeah, and in respect to how she looks, is she sort of looking well, or what? How's it affected her, do you think?
For me, she looked devastated. Very, very sad.
Yeah, that's because she is very, very sad.
She looked broken.
Yeah, but Jerry, what would you say about him?
Sorry, someone called me. So Jerry, for me, he was very cold, in my opinion. Cold, without any emotions, controlling. He was like, because when I spoke with Kate, she wasn't controlling. She was, like, I would say, in the same position. I mean, not the same position, but I don't know how to explain. Like, I could feel that Jerry felt like he was above me, like higher than me, like more important control. You know what I mean? And Kate was speaking with me like, I don't know how to explain, like I didn't get the vibe that she's better than me or higher than me or more important or more controlling, whatever. And Jerry was cold and controlling.
Yeah. Well, I think he gives that aura anyway from his TV appearances, his personal appearances. He comes across as a very arrogant, self-driven, self-absorbed individual.
Yeah, I know.
But I can remember saying, I think to yourself and maybe Sean as well, that it's my opinion that this is eating Kate away. It is eating her away, and she won't weather this storm very well at all. And you sort of confirm that.
I believe she will break and tell the truth. I hope she will.
Yeah, it's how awful. Whatever way we look at it, whatever our opinions of her, she's lost a daughter. Whatever way we we piece this together, she's lost a daughter, hasn't she?
Yeah, and she has.
I nearly lost one of my children, and at the point when that happened, it was the single most distracting thing that I'd ever endured. It was just awful. So how people, I often think, Beverly, this is strange because I was looking into the history of spiritualist churches, right?
Okay.
Where these things come from, and their real proliferation came after the First World War, and a lot of people turned away from the church a lot because it was mainly a matriarchal society then, because the men all died. Whole villages in the empire, not just in the UK, but where you're from as well. They lost nearly all their men, and these women lost their sons, their husbands, and they turned away from God, which is very much what a lot of survivors of ritual abuse do. They turn away from God because they think, where was God? How could God allow the suffering of children? And these spiritualist churches just exploded everywhere because they wanted to communicate desperately, with the children that they'd lost, out of last minute of desperation. So I can only imagine that's sort of what Kate's going through, this deeply entrenched, bereavement, whether we like her or not. but doing it on such a public scale as well. You know, it's I think all of that publicity is
but
just
that energy with the energy
backfired
with
on them.
the energy with Kate
it's awful,
is
but
like
yeah,
something.
it's interesting if you look at this movement that is a spiritualist church. You know, where have they come from? You know, and what are they all about? And it came out of absolute desperation. You know, and the fact is that when people go through trauma, they turn their back on God, and because they say, and I get it all the time because of what I stand for. And because I am a Christian, a born again Christian, and that, you know, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the Savior, and all that stuff. But survivors contact me, and they have a real moan at me and say, "Well, where is your God? Where was your God when I was being hurt? Where was your God? Where was my freedom of choice? I never had one. They did, and I didn't. Why does He allow this?" And the base level is He doesn't allow it. You know, this isn't of God. Anyone who harms, you know, not just children, anyone, it is not of God. You know, that is the other side that does this, and especially with the blood rituals.
Yeah,
And,
the blood rituals are the key thing. They absolutely are. But also the energy. If you have a look at the Kate McCann's face, when I started looking at her specifically, because I do think you're right. Is the way that the face is, she appears to be the weakest link. So when I look at the energies, we've got two sides. We've got our side with our heart on it, and we've got the side that doesn't have a heart. The energy on the heart side is a totally different energy that's created from the pump that's working in your chest. And that then allows that filtration to come up. But more importantly, everything that's going through your mind, everything that's going through these upper energy levels, that frequency comes through and goes back up again.
Do you know,
and the two sides are different.
That's really interesting, because there's something we used to do with the pictures of paedophiles when we was investigating them. We used to get a sheet of paper and we used to literally do that. And then do that. And you actually had two different people.
You do. And that's exactly I'm interested you did that, because that's exactly what it is you cut it in half here where the nose
down the middle,
and you can then easily see, and it's always on one side.
One side is skinny and one side is fat as well. So physically you get it, but you also get a very sinister side. And this is something that we mentioned before. When I contacted you about survivors, well, not survivors actually. When there are bodies found of ritual abuse victims, the attacks are on the left side, and that is what's known as sinister. That's the Latin name for the left, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So, you know, when you see these, when you go back to the crime scene and you start looking and you look at it from a different point of view, not just from a crime investigation point of view, but also from more of an energetic review, then the two very carefully eventually start coming through to exactly the same thing. I think it's amazing that without realizing it, you were already analyzing the frequencies and the energies of your possible perpetrators before you even realized that the difference in the energies on two different sides. I think that's amazing.
We actually couldn't wait to get a print out of their face, and we get in the office and we would straight away be doing that. You know, look at and it's funny because a profiler was saying to me, we was discussing about crime scenes, and she was saying, you know, when people have been hurt and they've been controlled, one of the things you'd say is, well, surely you would get hold of the person who hurt you and really hurt them, instead of being angry and attacking your wife, because a lot of domestic violence comes out of the trauma and things like that, or just innocent people. But they can't do that because they was hurt as a child. When they meet up with their abuser, which might be their mum, who might now be 1/10 their body size, they revert emotionally back to that frightened child.
Of course.
And they can't do it. So one of the things that people will do, they will destroy, an analogy is given about destroying a vase, going home and finding a beautiful vase at home and smashing it and destroying it. And then they say, well, why have you done that? why don't destroy something that was rubbish? But they can't. They have to destroy something of value. And
The
it's the same
energy
as
of the value. Mm.
it has to be of value. It has to be something of beauty.
Yeah.
And if you put that into a person, that's when you start getting the child molesters and the child murderers, because they're destroying something of absolute beauty and value, especially to God, because there is an anger against God and an anger against their abuser. And it really makes sense. And you think, yes, I get why they do that now. And this is why there's an
very
important.
interesting.
Yeah, but and it shows how it all ties
it all
in.
fits together, because you didn't realize that is what. And then when I read the face and the body and all of that, I read the two sides with everything that I work on. With the energy, I always read the two.
There's a really good video, and it was by one of the American police departments, and it was all to do as a murder detective, and he does a video on crimes in graveyards. This is what to look out for, and it's all to do with the significance of ritual abuse. And it was a training guide. I try and post it. It's brilliant, and it's
very
to do
clever.
with things like graffiti comes into it.
Yeah.
And it's also objects that are left. You can't dismiss these, because these are indicators of ritual abuse.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, and it's just that because we don't get that, because we don't have the police. The problem with the police is that there is a degree of narcissism, and they won't allow a lot of these experts, like my friend, the graffiti artist, and everyone else, to really sort of come in and piss on their strawberries, as the saying goes, you know, because they want it all their way, don't they? You know,
yeah,
so
they do.
it's all rubbish. And you know, a classic example was the murder of Nicole, that girl, Rachel Nicole, who was murdered in Richmond Park, and they blamed this guy Colin Stagg, and of course the evidence was it wasn't him, but the investigating officer was that until the day I die, Colin Stagg will always be the man that's guilty of this murder, but it wasn't him at all. So they get entrenched, and there's opinions coming from other ways saying, look, you've got to expand your thinking,
your thoughts.
And
they get invested. Yeah,
but you'll see where the South African police, because spirituality is a big part of their culture,
of course,
they will entertain it.
Yeah,
where here they don't want to entertain it. No, it's all rubbish. It don't happen.
But a lot of them, you know, they have these sangomas and yangas, and sangoma is an African word for one of these spiritual seers that are able to see things. They have an Inyanga, which is a healer, and the Inyanga travels with them. And, you know, many times when we used to be asked, and this is all as volunteers, we were never paid anything ever. And we used to go out with crews because there was something that was happening, particularly the ritualistic ones, because they are key. And when you've got, you know, individuals that are being mutilated for what they call muti killings, which is
the muti killings,
muti killings, that we make sure that if there was at least 2 or 3 of us that were working on it at the same. But at one time we were going out, and I was in the vehicle with one of the officers, and he had an alligator as a pet, and he'd fed his alligator chicken, and then we got in the car and we were heading out towards the area, and unfortunately we came upon part of the problem that was happening at the time. And I said to him, as we were moving up, I said to him, you better stop the vehicle because they're going to open fire on us. And he said, no, they're not going to open fire on us. I said, they are. And I then ducked down and went and sat in the footwell of the squad car, because I knew any minute now, the way that the energies had heightened and become almost fever pitch. And I thought, any minute now, there's going to be this hail of bullets. And he looked down at me, and we used to call him Crocodile Dundee because he had a crocodile. And he said to me, what are you doing down there? And I said, I'm waiting for the bullets, so I'm going to stay here. I ain't coming back up. And literally a few minutes later, there came the bullets. And he said, right. And he just pulled the vehicle over and then returned the fire. I stayed in the car.
Well, we get this a lot with the Mexican cartels, because they're into the Santa Muerte. Yes. And they are covering themselves in ritualistic ointments so they become bulletproof.
Yeah.
There was a guy came to see me a few years ago, and he was a bruja, they call them. It was a South American form of witchcraft. The name, it's not. It comes anyway. It will come.
Yeah.
It's one of the hoodoo type ones. And he said that he would be paid to do these ritual anointings for a well-known North London crime family. And he said they were so involved in it. Recent, and they would pay him a lot of money, and he would do the whole ceremony so that when they went out, they didn't get caught by the police, they didn't get shot, they didn't get and the strange thing is
that they call that the invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
They just create this invisibility cloak. You won't even know that they've been there. They will be in and out and gone.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt. I need Julia and John. I need you guys to take over a minute. Me and Beverly will be back in just 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. No. Right. Are we there? Right. So Julia, come on. What is? Have you had any backlash from what occurred?
I mean, Ken and Jerry, no one.
The police said anything or?
No, I only got the report from my OPC because I made a complaint regarding Mark.
Your reception's a bit bad, Julia.
I'm saying that I got the report from my OPC. Because I made a complaint about Mark.
You're still breaking, Julia.
That's odd. 1 second.
Your Wi-Fi is a bit rubbish. Right, we'll just wait and see. So,
how about now?
Yeah, that's better. So much better.
Is it okay
right.
now?
Yeah,
I think it's your. Okay, cool.
Right.
Can you hear me?
So, did you get home all right? Any stops at the airport? Any contact with the British police till you got home?
No, British police didn't do anything to me. I basically, one day after I met Kay and Jerry, I went to Leicestershire police station, because I wanted to ask them for help for DNA, and the police woman, she said she has only 5 minutes for me because she's very busy. So I didn't have a possibility to speak with her, and I didn't have a possibility to speak with her, to have a long conversation. So I just gave her some documents. She passed it to Metropolitan Police, she said. That's all. But no, police didn't chase me to the airport. No one stopped me. I was able to come back home without any problems. And a few days ago, I got this report from my OPC. Now I know who is the Mark who spoke with me. And now I know who made the decision about not testing my DNA. It was another Mark. So there are two guys called Mark.
So it was the IOPC that took the decision not to DNA test.
No. Mark Cranwell made the decision from Operation Grange.
From Operation Grange to the Metropolitan Police.
Mark Cranwell and Mark Draycott had a call with me.
Right. Okay. And what was his reasoning?
She didn't say in the report because it's only said there that they have a criteria that I don't match. She mentioned article from BBC that I said, according to BBC, I said that I regret saying Malden. It's not true. I never said it. She mentioned DNA 100% Polish, so with some Russian or whatever. So they basically based on mainstream media's lies, which is confusing. I don't know. I don't know actually what steps should I take.
I would have thought that because we carry something like in the 90s, the percentage connection with our mother. We have more of a DNA connection with the mother than we do the father. But one of the things when people go missing is we go for what they call retrievable DNA. So we would seize a toothbrush or we would seize the hairbrush. But what I found really, really weird about Kate's explanation was that she said that there wasn't a toothbrush. It was a communal toothbrush. All kids use the same toothbrush. Now, I don't know. That doesn't make sense. I think that's a lie. being a parent, you don't let your kids share toothbrushes. They all have their own, and as a kid, you want your own. And toothbrushes are very cheap now, not like years ago when there wasn't so much. And this is someone who is a clinician, is from the medical profession. So I wouldn't have thought it would be in her thinking process to allow kids to use, something that is cross-contaminating like a toothbrush, because if one kid's got maybe something wrong with them, or they've got bleeding gums, they're passing it around. So that doesn't make sense to me. And also with kids brushing teeth, you want to make it fun so they learn to do it. So my kids all had individual toothbrushes with little little symbols on them, like an action figure or something, all had different ones, and they knew there was theirs. So but in order for her to say that, it sort of contaminates that source of DNA. So I don't know whether or not they would have a source of the Madeline's DNA to compare against yours.
I don't know, but Madeline's DNA profile is published in McCann PJ Files website. And I send you my DNA profile compared with Madeline's DNA profile, and forensic DNA expert Dr. Monte Miller said that Madeline's DNA includes DNA of at least 3 related people. I don't know how he read this data. I'm not an expert, but this is what he told me. And he said I match them very well. So, and I don't understand why the police cannot look at my files and just take my DNA. They take my DNA.
Yeah, your connection keeps coming and going. It's a bit it's a bit rubbish. But I mean, I think it was a very, very brave move of you, and I was quite proud of you to do something like that. That's sort of like doorstep journalism. It's it's high risk on what you're doing, and it's confrontational. But you did it, and it seems to have really been quite positive. And I'm surprised very much at Kate's reaction. I find that very telling. But for yourself, how do you feel at having done it?
How I feel proud of myself. Surprised that they haven't called the police. They haven't reported me.
Yeah, so am I.
I feel that it was a positive trip because I was able to speak with Kate and Jerry, of course, too. I don't know what steps should I take now, because I think I tried everything. I plan to apply.
That's the problem. It's
I plan to apply to British court to get the judge make a decision about potential DNA, but I don't think the judge will agree. I think he will reject my request.
Yeah, your connection's going odd again.
I just want to say to everybody, apologies for darting out like that. Sorry, John, for just leaving.
You sound like a Dalek.
Who I do or Julia does?
Maybe it's your connection, John.
Yeah,
It might be John's. Okay.
I'm struggling with you there, Julia, with your connection again.
All right, let if the side check can let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear Julia, if you can hear John. John, you might want to drop out and drop back in. It might be your connection.
It's still a bit rubbish, Julia. It's really bad connection.
Julia's not talking. It's Ron that's talking.
Yeah, I think John has bad connection now.
All right, so look, John, it's definitely your connection.
Nothing.
Right. I'm going to message him.
Okay, good idea.
Still poor. Still quite poor.
Right, I've messaged him. He should get there.
Yeah. Oh, look, it looks like it's my connection. So let me try again. Let me try with me.
Okay. Once again, I just want to confirm that John is a detective. Okay. No, but look, I want to apologize to everybody for dropping out. Beverly and I have got a couple of things that we need to Beverly,
okay.
what she needs to do. But we may be having to postpone the big homie evening, sadly. And I'll keep you all updated as sort of things progress. but all I can do is apologize, and it will be happening. Obviously, I can't talk too much about it. Hang on. Okay.
Yes, John.
Yes!
What happened? Wrong.
Man. Hang on a second. Sorry, everybody. Hang on a second. Yo. Yes. Yes, you did. Fucking right, you did. Sorry. Yes. Honestly, what a relief. All right. Just bear with me, everybody. This is like mad Avengers madness going on here.
I don't know what's going on.
I mean, I got him. All right. Julia, just bear with me.
Okay.
Oh man, this is so wild.
Are you talking about the things I sent you, or? Because I'm confused.
I know you're confused. I need you to just remain confused for a second and just bear with me. All right, Ron wouldn't be acting this crazy on the internet. Oh, there's John. John can come back in and save me.
Okay.
John. Talk about things that are interesting. When I do down here. Apologies again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a lot better. It was breaking. I've logged off and logged back in again, so I don't know whether it's your.
But you can hear me.
I can hear you really, really good. I want to get myself centered.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So what I can gain is that you know that is a part of your mission, and you've done it. So what is your next proposed move on this?
I have no idea what to do now. As I said before, I was thinking about making a request to judge in British court, but I don't think he will accept my request regarding DNA because they're all protect each other, in my opinion. So I don't think that. I think the judge would not accept my request.
Well, I mean, what you've done is a lot more than most. But I'm really, really fascinated in Kate's reaction. For me, that's really, really telling. And especially there was part of the transcript. Is it when she says it's too late?
No, she said to me at the end, Julia, just go away. There is nothing you can do.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. The fact that she even recognised you and she acknowledged you, that says a lot for her, really. That she was willing to entertain it. I mean, she could have just told you to F off, but she didn't. She actually spent time and engaged with you. And
yes.
yeah, and the fact that she cried and showed emotion sort of changed my opinion on the woman. I think she's not as cold as she.
Broken.
I knew she would be broken. I knew that what went through and what went with Madeline really, really got to her. You can see that, and you can see he was different. And that they sort of both start off there, don't they? Because they've lost a child, but then you can see he's carrying on with her life, and she's actually going down.
Yeah,
and as time went on, physically, she looked very, very traumatized. He looks exactly the same, but she looks very, very traumatized. And
for me, she looked very, very sad, and as you said, traumatized. And as I said before, Jerry. Well, I know I didn't get a good vibe. I mean,
no.
I was like, I'm a kind of person who is very stubborn, and I told my friend Karen, I won't go away. After Kate went to home, I said, I won't go away. I will stay here. And she said, go, Julia, come to the car. And then Jerry showed up. And after Jerry came home, after speaking with me, I was like, for 1 minute, I was like, I will stay here. I want to speak with Kate. And I was crying a lot. But then something in my mind, like in my heart, I felt it's better if I would go. Actually, I felt very uncomfortable close to Jerry.
Yeah. I think that was the wisest thing to do. You've nothing else would have been achieved.
I know.
you'd have just upset yourself and upset Kate, and that's pointless, isn't it? Yeah, I mean,
I know,
think...
exactly. That's why I went away, because look, Jerry wouldn't even allow her to go out to speak with me. I think she knew that he will come back home, that he will come back home a few minutes after she came. I think she knew that it was supposed to be shortly after her, and that's why she maybe couldn't speak with me. I don't know, but it's possible.
Do you think he was called, or he saw you on the camera? Why do you think he came home? Do you think that he was due to come home, or he maybe saw you on the camera or something?
Actually, well, this is a good comment. I didn't think about this, but I think because they have two cars, and he, like, I think he drove behind her. I don't know. I mean, it looked like, because she came back to home, and I don't know, 7 minutes later, Jerry showed up. So I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the things that we discussed, you said that their refuge bin, their rubbish bins, above them are cameras.
Yeah.
And I explained from what I know that there is a lot of evidential worth in going through people's bins, because we throw away a lot of stuff that, especially we don't get them so much now, but you used to get like a paper telephone bill, even for your mobile, and have all the numbers called. You can get so much information from someone's bin. There was a famous journalist, a newspaper journalist, and he wrote a book, and it was all based on his investigations, because he would go through people's bins, especially recycling bins. He would empty them or open. We used to have the bags years ago, and he would sit there just going through people's rubbish. And it's amazing what you can profile from someone, and the evidence you can get from people's bills, because they used to say to us with things like credit cards, always shred or burn, get rid of your bills, because there's so much information on there that can be used.
That's true. I mean, I wanted to go and check their bins. I admit, I truly wanted. But my friend told me that there is a camera above the bins. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe better not to do this. Now when I'm back in Poland, I'm like, I could have done this. But on the other side, I think it would be illegal, and I think I could have some troubles.
Well, where it becomes illegal is, it would be argued, is that property? Is it property?
Was on their property. Yeah.
So if it's actually on their property, it is their property. So you have no right to take. Yeah. So if you steal, and you're there as a trespasser, they don't want you there. It's actually what's classed as burglary. So that could get you in a lot of trouble. But
yeah, probably that's why my friend didn't want me to do this.
Yeah, but they've thrown it away. So you could argue, no, it's rubbish. They've thrown it away. I'm just looking through rubbish. There's nothing illegal in someone's rubbish. But, the moment you're on her property and she says, Julia, I want you to leave, that's the moment illegality starts. Because there's what they called implied access. You can walk on someone's drive because it's open. And, of course, people have to deliver things, or inquiries are made at doors. So there is this, you are actually allowing people to come onto your property. But at some point, you can withdraw that permission. And that usually is when you tell someone, go away now. And then
yeah, I see.
They have to go. And if you take something, then it is a problem. So, yeah, you would have probably, you don't know also that they might, because of the amount of money they've raised, there could be private investigators on a 24-hour watch that are just parked up, or even do like hourly patrols checking on them.
Maybe. I don't know. One neighbor said hi to me and to my friend. He was like, hi, before they came.
But again, sometimes it's always worth talking to the neighbors. It's amazing what you get from the neighbors, having a chat.
I didn't think about it then. Maybe next time.
Apologies for that, everybody. I may nip away again. I didn't want to be rude. But where there's everything's cool. How is everyone? So Yeah, I'm a bit taken aback, and I'm now just sort of processing a lot of things. And I hope everyone's having a good night. And I'm sorry that I've been in and out. And John, sorry you were abandoned. And Julia, sorry you were abandoned. Beverly, give me a wave if you are ready to come back on. Yeah, okay, good. Right, okay.
What happened?
I want to ask everyone's opinion about something that is making the news, but something that was actually not only biblically predicted, but was also mentioned by Ronald Reagan many years ago. And he said about that they will put the focus on UFOs. And we're sort of seeing that now with what's happening over New Jersey and other parts, and the Manchester airport. We've just been hit with UFO sightings, whereas before, oh, it's all rubbish, all nonsense. But Ronald Reagan made a very, very revealing statement that in order for everyone to take the knee for the one world government, they will produce a threat outside of what we know, and that will be UFOs. And this is maybe what we're seeing happening.
A lot of those items, though, they're reverse engineered man-made drones. They're not actually they're not off-worlders. They don't come from another galaxy. You know, they're definitely not it. There's others that are way above that are outside these realms that work with light and do all sorts of things. But the things that we are seeing in, you know, these different areas across the world, and certainly what we saw at the Manchester area, it's definitely not. It's something that has been man-made. There's definitely something that is man-made. It's not something that's off-world origin.
Yeah, I remember meeting up with a guy called Nick Pope many years ago, and he was the
I know
Ministry of Defence's UFO liaison, and he said that they get reported sightings from pilots daily. There was a guy I was in the police with, and he was a fighter pilot. He actually served in the Royal Air Force on the Tornado jets during the Falklands War and all that. And he said the same. He said, and he was a commercial pilot before he joined the police. Said you get these sightings all the time. They are standard. And,
and off-worlders, they don't look like that. They're not just a drone type. And you know, I would just they just
look like drones. Them things, I think they're just drones.
Yeah, they are.
But it's bizarre how we're seeing them now. They're you know, I'm not into this stuff. It's not really my thing. But it's strange how we are seeing them everywhere.
Yeah, but it's preparation for a false flag. You know, they're needing some sort of false flag event. The fact that all the cameras are down across, you know, the whole of London, there's only one camera that's still working. They went off in September, and because a friend of mine
the cameras all went off when the 7/7 attacks occurred in London. All of a sudden, the cameras were off for
I remember.
You know, really, come on now. And it's what I find strange is that before the old COVID nonsense that occurred, whatever people's opinion that is, but just before that, we had the Epstein list, you know, the E-list, let's say, so the E-list that came out, and then we had the Scandemic, and now we've got the P. Diddy thing, and we're being hit now with other big major news, and it seems that for me that the media and the governments, they take ownership, like they did with the government inquiry into care home abuse. They take ownership and say, right, we are going to deal with this, right? We're not going to ignore this because they have to deal with it because it's too big. And then all of a sudden something else happens and it's like, right, we dealt with that. It's all gone. Let's carry on. We won't revisit again. It's all been investigated. We did our job. Shut up, move on. And that seems to be what we're seeing in the news now, because the P. Diddy thing it was big, bump, move on.
Yeah, exactly. It was the same as what happened before with Operation U-Tree and all the others that we became involved with, and you know, they buried it. So we're expecting the same thing, same old, same MO.
Yeah,
that's what they've done.
The algorithm is the same. The
it's the same.
With it, because I was being interviewed by a guy, and he said about the P. Diddy thing. I said, come on now. We had this with the U-Tree, the guest house, the Dolphin Square, and he said to me, "What's that?" He didn't even know what it was.
Oh no!
I went, you've never heard of Dolphin Square? He went, no. I said, look, this involves not just rock stars. It involved politicians, and it involved people at the highest level of British society. So, you know, we've had all this. We've had all this. We even had our own prime minister named, under Operation Conifer. He was named. Teddy was named. This is even bigger than what we're seeing in America. Yet because it's in this country, no one takes any notice.
No, they're not interested. Yes, it's one of those where you have, specific type of amnesia, and we find that it's mass amnesia. I remember when I was working on. Do you remember the bomb that went off in Brighton during that that political conference that was happening? And I remember
the
that
Grand Hotel.
That's right, and some people that I knew that were part of, the whole Savile and the things that were happening at the time. And they had said that they had known some of the other people that were also children that had been moved to that unit and were actually servicing in that hotel at the time.
I know one of the girls, she's an adult now, and she's a survivor. She was pulled from the rubble of that. And she wrote a book, and she's still to this day sanctioned by the British government not to mention anything about what happened, and she was pulled from the rubble, and I think she ended up next to Norman Tebbett's room or something like that. And she was pulled from the rubble, and there was a massive intelligence services block on everything she did. And they were so frightened.
That's right. Yeah, they were stopped to talk about it, and all of the handlers that provided underage individuals and all of the handlers that provided children and particular types that were needed, they also made sure that they stopped people that were in the kitchens that had seen them moving these little ones, and also the children and young people through the kitchens upstairs. They made sure that they covered all the tracks. So, that was what was happening then.
So if I was looking into this inquiry, so especially with the P. Diddy thing, you've got people saying, oh, we've now got a picture of Sharon Osbourne. And I say, Kel Surprise, do you know, seriously, so what? Are we that surprised that rock stars do that? I mean, come on. If you are, you really need to wake up a little bit. But if I was investigating, my way in would be the ex-police and ex-forces guys that are used for protection. I would be putting so much pressure on them to tell the truth, and I would, because they're being paid is not usually they're going to get involved in this sort of
absolutely
do you know what I mean, nonsense and depravity, and they've come from serving the crown or serving their country, so they're usually of solid morals, not like a rock star who's just a degenerate, in my opinion. So there would be the ones I would be applying to their moral compass to do the right thing, because they see what goes on. And we get it as well with people like Al-Fayed in this country, Mohammed Al-Fayed. His security personnel are ex-police and they are ex-military. Now, a lot of them would be tough guys from tough regiments. Now, I'm saying to them, there's nothing tough in being part of the cover-up of the abuse against children. Do the right thing. If you've got the moral fortitude and the moral compass and wherewithal to stand up and say you want to fight for the country and for the vulnerable, which you do when you join the military or the police, then do the right thing now and stand up and speak the truth, because money is not going to save you at the end of the day. And these are people these are people that chose the careers they did because money was not a motivator. Doing the right thing was a motivator. So that's where I would go. Whereas actors and rock stars, well, I just think they sold their soul many years ago, and I just think they're just weird people anyway. So I would never put any emphasis on moral, fortitude.
The moral compass.
Yeah, because I think they've got it.
With the Harrods thing, I think the last time I had anything to do with the group of survivors, I think, when memory serves me right, I think there was 300 that was in the class action, because the solicitor or attorney is in America, but is actually discussing the case over here with some of the aspects and barristers, etc. And I think they started with about 320, and I think they're down to about just over 300 now that they've managed to do their due diligence and do their investigation and verification, all the things that they do. And there was actually quite a few that now live in Australia. And they've been really good. But none of the survivors that I know personally are prepared to even come forward or give their name. They're happy to go into the case, but they're not prepared to discuss anything with anyone else.
I think that they can get around that. You know, you can use a pseudonym name. And the other thing is people move on with their lives, and they have families, and it's difficult for them. And, you know, and they might not have understanding partners, and also it could affect their career prospects and things like that.
Of course,
they could,
yes.
You know, so it's a difficult one, you know, coming forward. It's there's one lady that I know. She's an SRA survivor and an author and a good campaigner now. And her husband is such a lovely guy, and he stands with her. And I said to her husband once, it must be very, very difficult for you when your missus gives these talks, because she's coming up with the most personal things about the abuse that occurred to her as a young child, and of course she's sovereign to him because of their unification through marriage. But I was at a conference run by an ex police officer, a child abuse investigator in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, and it was to do with ritual abuse, and the fact that there is now pressure from these working groups to get the British government to see SRA as an aggravating factor and accept that it goes on, and they're sort of getting that way now. I know Italy does, South Africa definitely, America.
Well, you've got the Muti killings there, so
they accept it.
That's a big thing.
And I think with UK society now, you know, we have got the most diverse culture in the world.
We do, huge population,
bar none. You know, and we are getting people that, especially that come from the Congo, Benin, Nigeria, northern Nigeria, where they have experienced witchcraft and murder and ritual abuse. You know, I mean, Benin has a voodoo festival every year. 30% of the population of Benin practice voodoo, and a lot of that is blood rituals.
It is. How much of our police force, though, if you think about it, how many individuals and how much training do they have? You know, years ago when there was a couple of Muti situations that were happening in London, and I'm going back quite a few years, and they contacted me when I used to live up in Milton Keynes, and they contacted me and they kind of realized that I'd worked a lot on these cases in South Africa. And I went through to London and I sat with him and I explained, and they showed me some of the photos and said, what is that? What does that mean? What is this? What is that? And we were going through all of it. And I said, I suggest that you write all this down, because it was before we had like these major, beautiful phones that you could do all these amazing things to. And I said, I suggest you write all this down, because I'm going to explain everything to you, but you need to create a file somewhere, or you need to create some sort of backup so that you can give this to your officers so that they know what they're looking at. Yeah. And they said, well, that's really a good idea. It was in that really old building, that horrible old building. And their officers were right on the back where the windows were. And I couldn't believe what a state of disrepair the building was in, and those floors were awful. And they did. They wrote everything down, and they said, right. And we went through each of the cases. And because they were empowered with that knowledge and that energy, and things made sense to them, they were able then to talk intelligently to the families of the victims. And they were also able that when they thought that someone might have been one of the perpetrators, they were able to set up questions to trip them up so that they could actually understand that this person has done X, Y, and Z, because they had inside information. But I noticed that sort of level of collaboration with experts seems to have stopped now.
Yeah, and that they deliberately steer away from it now. I mean, even when you look at the Catholic Church, before the Catholic Church sanctions an exorcism, they will go down every legal and psychological and physiological route. They try and disprove it before they turn around and hand it over to the Vatican to say, no, do your job. you know, because of that, because they know that our society doesn't accept it. So they will get in a psychiatrist, they will get in a doctor and say, actually, this person isn't mad, they're not ill, they're not suffering from delusions, they're not suffering from a lack of vitamin D. There's something preternatural going on here. Now you can go and do your job. And the police did have a woman, they had a barrister who had survived terrible abuse and went on to become a human rights and child protection lawyer. And she was allowed an input on the detective's course. She had a slot where she would teach detectives to think forensic if there was ever an ecclesiastical setting in which a rape, an R word, or a murder had taken place. And she was doing so well received, intellectual, you know, it was academic, you know, and it had a grounding for provable facts. And then an officer who has cropped up on my radar more times than I wish to say. One day I will say his name. Legally I can't. And I know that the guy is a worshipper of the darkness. He alone managed to get her removed by sanctioning the senior management and got her removed from the course. So she no longer is allowed to teach this little input that she did have. And it would have saved. Yeah. When you see the Americans that I mentioned earlier with this fantastic training video on ritual abuse, its settings, you know, and also it's demeaning to these cultures and to these religions, especially Central and West Africa, where it is part of their culture. Yeah. That, you know, and it is, you know, we have Ndoko, is it Kendoko?
Yeah.
You know, the Congolese one where, you know, we got their churches where they practice, you know, these exorcisms and stuff like that, and it goes on. It is a fact. It goes on. So it was good to see that there is this pressure group now of ex-detectives that are now telling the government, you need to wake up to this because it is real.
Well, I think that's wonderful, and hopefully at some point they will allow individuals that have the experience on the ground help with writing the policy, the protocols, and providing some sort of literature to help them. And it should really be like America and other countries. You know, in South Africa, it's a common thing. Everybody knows what to look for. If you're working for SONOP or you're working for one of the other police areas, everybody knows what to look for. They know. They've been trained.
Also in South Africa, you've got the fetish markets, the open fetish markets, which sell animal parts and other herbal bits and pieces that are used for ritual, you know.
Yeah. Muti markets. There's a big aspect of muti markets.
They're open, you know, and live animals are sold for the blood rituals as well.
Absolutely.
So and here's a fact for you, Beverly. Right, there's been about 5 London bridges. You know, one fell down and this happened and all that. That apart from the one they've got now, the 3 previous all had human sacrifices found in their footings.
Oh, I'm not surprised there. Absolutely not surprised. You know, surprise there at all.
You know, so come on, you know, we really need to face facts that these things have always gone on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's an ancient belief system.
It is. Yes, it does. In some cases, it even predates Christianity.
Yeah, I think in most cases it does. In most cases, you know. So
hi, Ron. You're back.
How are we doing, everybody? So I just want to say, everybody, apologies. Bev, could you go and speak to Azria and just let her know what's happening?
Are we going to cancel? Are we going to cancel or not?
I'm waiting. I'll have an answer in the next sort of 15 minutes on a definite.
She is watching. So
yeah. I've seen her backstage. So I just wanted to make sure that she gets an update. I'm sure you've already done that, but I'm just suddenly realizing now. Julia, I just wanted to let everyone know as well. This episode was all four of us. It wasn't necessarily specifically about Julia. I don't want anybody worrying that Julia has not got to put anything over or anything like that. And I apologize for derailing the whole podcast and just leaving and then dragging Beverly out. 1 second. So John, thanks very much for manning the fort. And there's going to be another live stream straight after this. I'm currently finding out exactly what's happening with the start time and everything like that. I know I'm being very cryptic, but sadly, sometimes that's the way we have to be. Julia has provided me with some incredible audio files. I'm going to download all of these and we're going to turn that into a Julia and Beverly night where we go through all of our EVPs. Now, John, what's next Sunday? Next Sunday's still what, Christmas? Yeah, so next Sunday, right? It'll be a much more traditional crime theory where we're going into a case, but we'll be adding in Beverly's skill set and insight. Very much looking forward to that. Sorry I didn't get to spend much time with you tonight, mate.
No, that's good. It's good to catch up with Beverly because I've known Beverly for quite a few years now, and I've relied on her experience and her knowledge on you know actual live cases and some of the times that they've been very, very dynamic where we've ended up at a crime scene. And one that comes to note was one in the West Midlands where we came across voodoo dolls, and we weren't expecting it, and it was freaky, and that no one knew what to do. So I said, well, I know one person, so I contacted Beverly and I went, look, this is what we got. Are they for real? And she went, yeah, very much so, very, very much so. And it was the most awful place. It was, and it was daubed in just satanic. It was weird, but it was a site that was believed there was an excavation going on for children's body parts at the same place. So very, very weird. And that was in the UK. But like I said to her, there's a guy that's approached me. I've actually been speaking to Sean Atwood today about it. He's the world's expert on graffiti crime, and he's a retired detective. He's probably the best cop I've ever worked with, and he wants to start doing stuff regarding some of the graffiti that he's come across that he believes has been occultic, and it's been linked to actually been at murder scenes. And
that would be really good, especially I don't know, are you allowed to share the case that we worked on with the voodoo dolls and
yeah.
Are you going to be allowed to share some of those pictures? You think because it'd be good to show him and say, this is what I said, which we did with the case, but it'd be good for him to see as well what his take is on it.
Yeah, because I always ask for permission. I mean, what I've got, I'll compile them actually, and I've got paintings as well by an SRA survivor who's actually got around exhibition. That she's part of a documentary now, but I knew her from early days because one of the things with the survivors, because of the DID, they can't talk. They try and talk and they just can't. But they draw, and this woman's a very accomplished artist, and she's managed to paint what she saw, and it's fascinating, and it's frightening, it's horrible, it's awful, and it was her life. But these things as well are good to bring it home because it's okay. It's a painting, and it's subject to interpretation, and it's subject to license. But providing she's telling the truth, okay, I think she is. That there will be my dissenters who say that she's made it up. They're the nearest thing you can get to actually being there. And that there is one of the UK's most prominent journalists who is a doctor of journalism, and she is a dissenter. She attacks anything I do regarding ritual abuse. She attacks.
Why would anybody lie about going through that? Why? Why would anyone bother going into all these different things and saying all these different things for what purpose?
But Beverly, here's another one, right? They'll turn around and they'll say it's a form of Asperger's, right? They've seen it on a film, they watched a horror film now, but here's the argument. Okay, you can see things and take ownership of them and say they're yours, but one thing they can't do, what about the smells? right?
No,
The smell, they're very consistent with the smells, and like with me, I cannot go near anything rotten, dead meat, because I've dealt with dead bodies, and I go into terrible trauma if I smell rotten flesh. I'm physically sick, and I'm gone. You can't go near me because I'll go a bit crazy, right? Because it's the smells. They all have the same recollection of smell. So where does that come from? You know?
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, the nose knows and it doesn't lie, and that's it. It's also the dungeon smell, the smell that is within a dungeon. The dungeon smell is something that once you've been through that and you've survived that and you've come out the other side, that is so pungent, and it's a smell that you will never forget. And if you walk past a place, and I've had this happen to me, where I've walked past a place and I've just got a whiff of something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I know what's happening below here. And I will just scarper.
Yeah. So well, this woman, she has talks that she does around the country, and part of her talk is attacking me, attacking Donald Trump, and attacking me. And
you're in good company then. Good company for you.
I actually went to her talk, and there was a big picture of me on the screen, and I sat in front of this woman. I had glasses on and a hat, and she didn't even. And I was asking questions, and she didn't even know it was me.
Oh my goodness!
That shows what a good investigator she is. But during that talk, there was the guy who patronised it, allowed it to go on. Is the leader of the Fortean Society.
Oh,
right. Because we've got the Fortean Times magazine. I think it's something to do with them. I'm not sure, but he runs a Fortean Society, and he stood up in front of this whole auditorium of people about ritual abuse and said, "We know that children are liars and they make these things up," and that was the nearest thing to making me ever publicly explode and really attack someone when I heard that. And I just thought how awful that what these children have been through, what they continue to go through as adults, the pain, the torment, the mental health, the suicides, and you've got a learned individual like him standing there from the so-called respectable middle white classes of the United Kingdom, and then calling all children liars because they've come forward and given testimony to the horrors that they've endured at SRA. And this was someone that was part of this this Doctor of Journalism's part of her talk. And the strange thing is, her name is on the RAINS list. So there you go. It's and when we look at the RAINS list, and I always go on about it, a list of who's who in Satanism, there are names of people in there that are household names. If you was accused of the R of children, the murder of children, the sacrifice of children, and you was a household name, and you was put on this public document, and you didn't do it, well, and you have money, you would make sure your name was removed. But yet, no one's done it. Yeah, I've been muted somehow. But Beverly, I can't hear you. You've been muted somehow.
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Right.
What I said was Danny Henderson is on the has put a message for us. She's written a book called Angels. I think it's Angels, Demons, and Aliens, and she's particularly well versed and understands all of the tricks that the demons will use, and she understands all the signs. So it is definitely something worthwhile to have a look at, what it is that this man that understands both iconography and also all of the different calligraphy and graffiti signs,
yeah,
and maybe see what both of them see and think.
And they do crop up.
Of course
You know,
they do. Yeah.
they crop up, and you know, tattooing's another one. You see a lot of people with the tattooing. You know, we was discussing last time about the death head moth that people have tattooed on their necks, and things like that. So, you know, what I like to do is next time somehow try and share some of these pictures with people, so they can get a grasp and an understanding of you know, it's abhorrent. It is abhorrent. There is nothing benevolent and you know, and sweet and cuddly about this. They're horrific. You know, and they come with a trauma warning because they're awful. Yet people worship these things, these deities.
Well, it's what they get out of it. Remember this, you know, these blood rites and the rituals that they're involved with. And I saw it in South Africa as well. They have that level of power, and some of the individuals that are leading these rites and doing the collections off children and that sort of thing, you know, there is this ability to be able to create success and wealth and power and certainly, you know, get the soulmate coming in and doing all these good things. That is all part of it. But most individuals in this world, they're so busy going to work and getting up and paying the bills and doing everything that they have to do, they just don't see it at all.
Well,
and it's just a matter of education.
I only want to say that I have to go, and thank you for having me here. It's just, I don't know why I feel so emotional, so I just have to go. I will listen to you from my YouTube account, and thank you. It was nice to meet you, Beverly, and take care, and bye.
Okay, Julia. Oh, she sounds triggered there.
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yes, I think it is. We'll send her a message afterwards, and you also send her a message.
Yeah. Let's hope she's it's not something we said or done. I mean, it's I did speak to her directly after she went and doorstepped Kate. She contacted me, and I thought it was, you know, a very brave thing to do, and I think she conducted herself in a very, you know, compassionate and diplomatic way. So you know.
But it's a difficult situation with the Kate McCann person, because I think she's definitely pulled in two different directions.
Yes.
And she will need to understand what she would like to do and how she would like to move forward. I think that she's probably is the weakest link based on her energy and her own vibration. It is reducing. So I think if there is any opportunity for her to be able to say exactly what happened on the day and what was happening at that entire event on their stay, because there's a lot of energies there that are not being spoken about, and there's a lot of stuff that has been hidden. Well, there's loads of witnesses that you know, haven't come forward yet.
And you know, two things there. I mean, she's living with someone I don't think is wholesome. You know, I don't think he's a nice guy at all, Jerry. You know, again, I'm only talking in what I know, but I have had people speak to me, and you know, I've been told. I don't know the validity of this, but I've been told by someone, you know, that they were heavily involved in the swinging scene and stuff like that. Which for me, I just think, if you're married, then it's up to people to do what they do. But you know, it's the sanctity of marriage, something that's so dear and precious, to get caught up in that. You know, so there's all of that, and the whole energy that goes with that is, you know, I worked for many years with street vice, with street prostitutes, and Beverly, you know, they were just so worn out, not just through the drugs, but the way that their bodies were being used and their soul was being used. But you know, they were just an item, an object, and I felt very sorry for them. You know, not that they needed my pity. And some of them became very, very honest, because a lot of them had disease. You know, so you know, and this is one of the things we're seeing this a lot now with these influencers on TikTok and all that, where men, they go around and just eat crap food and shove it in their gobs and get millions and millions of viewers and make tens of thousands of pounds worth a month. just by doing crap. But then you get it with the girls that are prostituting themselves. You know, there's one called Bonnie Blue who's going out and having, just say sleeping with them. They're not sleeping with no one. They're whoring their bodies out to thousands of men, hundreds of men, and think that they're doing this for the greater good of you know, female empowerment and all that. But what they don't realise is that all them soul ties that are attached each time they shag one of these guys, they've got a connection to all those soul ties.
Well, it's energy. It's all energy and frequency.
Yeah,
so
right, yeah.
that stays there for, you know, for years and years and years. In fact, energy never goes away. Energy doesn't die, neither does the frequency.
And they're tied into it, and the weight of that will drag them down, you know, and it will, and the heaviness, the spiritual heaviness of all of that, and it's wrong. And then when you're looking at you know, Kate, what she's been through, and she must be getting so much hate mail. I mean, the public opinion of her must be awful. I know there's people that do support them and generally think they're victims, whereas I don't. But after what Julia's done and said, you know, there's a big part of me that thinks this is a woman that is grieving, that has lost something that she genuinely loved, which was a daughter, whether she was, you know, and even child abusers do love their kids, some of them, you know, but they are so twisted and broken in the way they behave. You know, it's like the guy beats his wife, and when she leaves, he loves her, he's distraught. Well, you shouldn't have beat your wife, but did he love them? They probably did love them, but they are so emotionally damaged and broken with such a low level of emotional intelligence that you know, they can't cope with it. And it's the gauge here is that he looks the same, totally cold, yet she looks haggard.
She's taking all the brunt of the energy, I think.
And you're right, we're all going to die. No one gets off this earth alive.
No.
And, you know, and when she goes, whatever people's belief is, it's up to them. But I generally think we're going to be answerable for our actions, what we've done and failed to do.
Yes,
you know?
Of course.
And I think that she should give it up, give it all up, give it to the Creator, give it to God, and tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yeah, I don't know what was being discussed, guys. I do apologize. People were just making some comments there. So just so everybody knows, Big Homie, there's a very good possibility the show will be going on tonight. It's just a couple of hours late. I'm already talking to Julia. Julia and I, the whole time Julia and I haven't been talking on here, we've been talking on WhatsApp about sound files and stuff. Ron is very okay, right? Ron is very okay. Everything is okay. But I'm telling you now, there's been a turn of events that have happened this evening that have created more validation, more incredibleness. And I tell you now, when we all talk about it later, none of you are prepared. None of you are prepared for this. None of you are prepared. This is wild. And I'll tell you something else. It's the first time where I feel like I was actually part of something.
Well, you were.
And I was effective. And when you find out what I've just found out, oh god, I blew this away. Right, so listen, we'll be back later. Julia, I'm literally going to be calling Julia in about 2 minutes.
Is she all right? Because she was very distressed a minute ago.
I don't know. I think maybe some of the subject matter, the side chat are saying, hang on.
Yeah, I think there were some bits and bobs that might have triggered her, which is why we had said that we weren't going to do anything specific with her at the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely
but,
not.
No. Sometimes I'm not here, so I do apologize. Right, but Julia's fine. I'll be calling her after this. But I just want to say none like this is it, man. Right, John. You know, you've been around Beverly a lot more than I have. You've had your wow
years of it. Shame. I think there's been times where John has been completely and utterly quiet, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I said that's really so shocked the poor man? But yeah, you've done really well though. You've grown so much in the last 3-4 years. All the stuff you've seen and worked out, you've been a great student.
It's amazing how it all come together, and then because you know there are people that I rely on, so I contact you, you know, at these intersections as I go through. Corinne's another one. I always, if I have an issue, I go to Quinn, and I do love an expert, and I just love to, right, what's going on here? What's going on here? I want to know what's going on. And it's like what I said about this topic, the more you look into it, the more you see, and the more you always prove right. And I said to someone, because I get contacted quite a lot now, because they're saying, you know, what you said 10 years ago, actually, it's happening. I said, well, you're never proved wrong with this topic.
Yes,
you know, we're dealing with something that's ancient and it's old, and the blueprint is there, the algorithm is there, and we're seeing it all play out. You know, it's happening, and now it's incredible.
Empowerment.
It is, and it's an incredible time to be alive. And really, if you look at the mainstream media, the news, there's almost a media blackout now.
Yeah, there is. They won't publish anything. I really don't believe so. No, it doesn't really matter what you take or what's been reported on, or whether it's someone who's, you know, familiar, whether it's someone who's unknown, or whether it's a celebrity. There's nothing that comes out unless there is a valid police case involved with it. Then they might actually print something, but it's going to have to be really out there and pushed out in sort of the other media channels before the mainstream media will even touch it.
Well, what we're saying, I was talking to a retired copper contacted me the other day, and he works for an insurance company dealing with stolen boats and things like that. And he was working on a case in Manchester where jet skis were stolen, and he says the same thing. He said the suspects are always firemen. It's bizarre. So as soon as I get a fireman, I know there's something wrong there. I'm not denigrating firemen.
How strange!
It was just something he said to me, and it made me laugh. But he had a real strong case of deliberate fraud, and he contacted the police in Manchester, the Great Manchester Police, and within about, they said, yeah, we'll deal with this. Within about a day, he was contacted. Yeah, no further action. And he was like, I'm not having this. And what they done, a complex fraud, and he gave it all to them because he knew that the standards had dropped. They'd given it to a guy that had only been out of training school 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Oh, shame. Doesn't stand much of a chance then, does he?
Yeah, and the young lad didn't even know how to investigate. He rang up the suspect and said, did you defraud the insurance company with a stolen jet ski? And the woman went, no. And that was it. He finished. He thought that was how you investigated. But
I guess you'll learn as it goes along. You'll learn.
Yeah, but the point is, what if that was a serious abuse of a child, or the beginnings of a big PDF file ring, which it may well have been. And these people, this is the caliber of officers they've got now. They actually, I said to them, it's a bit like, good surgeons, consultant surgeons, all go in, and they're getting like St. John's Ambulance volunteers and making them surgeons. And so, well, actually, we've got no one. You're the next best thing. Get on with it. Do open heart surgery. Investigating is a skill, and it's the ability, to look at evidence that goes towards you and goes away from you, and pick up on body language and understand that people lie, and they're very deceptive and they're very cunning. And there's clues everywhere, and you've got to look at it.
You just got to find them, or you've got to acknowledge them, or got to know what you're looking at, and that is one of the biggest issues. Yeah.
And then there's always more behind it, and it's gone. And I think when we're looking at especially the ritual thing, it's something that I have tried to walk away from it, but it's not my path to walk away from it. It keeps coming back even stronger. And you see signs of it everywhere. And they are telling us, without being a conspiracy theorist, because they try and stick really with the facts. But, when we look at all this stuff that's going on with the Diddy inquiry in America, these people are showing us who they are and what they worship.
Of course. Yeah, in plain sight, hiding in plain sight. There they are.
It's all this, and it's all, oh, no, that's just art. Oh, come on, it's nonsense. It's total nonsense. And look at that lady Abramovich. what's the name? Is it Maria Abramovich?
Marina, yeah.
Maria, I mean, my word, if anyone thinks that she's just a fashion icon.
Have you seen Michelle Lamy? Have you seen Michelle Lamy, John? I'm sure you'll love her.
I probably have, but go on.
Have you seen? Go on, show us.
Just for visual impact, John, you'll love this. She radiates such a positive light. You know, she emphasizes, and keep in mind, this is how this is her going out in public look, John. All right, keep that in mind.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh no, they call her the Witch of Hollywood.
Yep. That's right.
Oh my word. Oh, I mean, she just makes me want to be sick.
Honestly, John, I swear to God, see if there was ever like my fantasy like gladiator pugil stick battle, right? It would be you and Michelle Lamy over.
Oh my word! Well, I'd win hands down. She's got no
100%.
power. She's a very, very weak, cowardly woman. She emanates darkness. She has lost this battle, and she is committed to a life of absolute misery and the misery in which she's making. But what's interesting now is that
just before you get onto this narrative, I just need to say, I'm going to drop out this now. I'm going to go and make sure Julia's okay and make a phone call.
Yeah, please.
You guys just keep chatting away. Big Homie, I've touched base with him. We're aiming for the Big Homie show to be moved to 10:30 this evening, but he's currently going to be moving to a different location for undisclosed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. And then it may be 11, it may be half 11. But I'm telling you now, you do not want to miss this live stream. Okay. You do not want to miss this live stream. Okay. So you just have to be flexible with us. People who have no patience, I apologize now because you're going to hate this whole journey. But I'm going to nip out just now, make sure Julio's okay. You guys just keep talking because.
We will.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
You go. So John, about that case that we worked on, because there was a particular case. Can we go through one of the cases that we worked on that has actually now been completed, so that the viewers can understand, you know, what it is we get, what we see, how it is, and how different it is to the standard, usual crime cycle, because it is a very different way of working.
Yeah, one that I think, away from the voodoo doll one, one of the ones was a case of the boy that went missing in Belfast many decades ago. I think 1980. His name is it'll come to me, Brian something or other. A young boy, he goes missing. Now in a very small period of time, 5 young boys go missing from the same area of Belfast, which is this disputed territory in Northern Ireland. And this lad is found in the main river, the River Lagan that goes through Belfast, in a suitcase, I think, or bag or a suitcase, and he's dismembered, and his left arm is missing. Now his arm was missing, but they never ever said what arm went missing, right? Now the police initially made a statement. So what they called the RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, which was a predominantly Protestant British police force operating in you know, the British territory of Northern Ireland.
I see.
In the height of the Troubles, I think 2,000 people died in a very short period of time in basically a civil war, sectarian war in British soil, which is amazing, really. That even went on. But this young boy, his body was turned up. They blamed his brother, and the excuse that they came up was that these two. So he was 8 years old. His brother was a couple of years older, and they're saying that this boy Brian had hit his brother with a stick, and that his brother got so angry that a couple of days later he murdered him, mutilated him, chucked his body in a fast-flowing tidal river, in this war zone, right? Okay. Now the RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, had information that this was witchcraft, and they made a statement that we are looking at potentially a devil worshipping murder, right? They were then told to retract that evidence, On top of that, the British military intelligence in Northern Ireland were told to actively start daubing satanic ritual symbolism on graveyards. They were told to go and get, they were given a book on occult symbolisms. This was how rudimentary it was. They would then go and get blood from butchers and get pets from the pet shop, kill them, pour blood, and draw these symbols that they got out of a book to try and make out it was kids that were mucking around. It was sort of like a double bluff, as it were, you know.
Oh, right, yeah, double bluff.
And
Yeah.
the senior officer who brought it to the attention about this kid's death, who said, a British military intelligence officer said, there's something about this isn't right. Right, he was tasked with then putting these distraction satanic sites, very amateuristic, and only showing body to show that this was kids. And he knew the truth. He spoke out and was stitched up with a murder.
Oh, wow.
That he didn't commit, right, and went away for 10 years for a murder he didn't commit. He was later released because it was a mistrial. It was bad justice. Okay, so that's one side, right? And they never ever solved this murder. And these four other kids that went missing, right?
They obviously never found the arm or the hand or the piece of the. No, they never found anything else. Oh.
But this is where it gets deeper. So a few years later, I get contacted by a lady who's a survivor of SRA, right? And she said, you need to look into the murder of this young boy. His name will come, it's Brian something, his name will come to me. She said, because my parents were Satanists from the northern provinces, the Republican side of Northern Ireland, but just miles away from, so it's across the border in Republican Ireland, but as a crow flies, not too far away from where this boy was found. She said, I was put underground in a church, awaiting a ritual, as happened quite a bit, kept in a cage for a couple of days, and this boy was brought in. Which is usual. This boy was brought in. She said, he told me his name was Brian. He was in his underpants. He was shaking. He was cold. He'd wet himself because he was so frightened. And he was talking to me, and they were kept dark in this thing. The ritual started, and she said they were both brought up, and she said, I watched as his throat was slit, his left arm was removed, and she said she remembers everything. She said, I remember his body falling to the floor, and there was blood everywhere, and she said he was frightened, he was only little, and she remembers his face, everything. She said, and this picture, it's him, I know it's him, right? And she said, and then they cut off his left arm, and the guy held it above like a trophy.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, everyone cheered, and then an orgy occurred. And she said, that's it. She said, that boy will be missing his left arm. Now, I contacted the, what's now called the PSNI, the Police Service in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And I contacted a journalist contact I had with the top newspaper. And like I always do, I pass everything over, right?
Yes.
I'm not getting caught up in the middle of anything. Do I trust this woman? Yeah, I do trust her. Do I know her? I do sort of know her. But do I know her inside out? No, I don't. And the other thing is she's a survivor of ritual abuse. Therefore, I can't trust her. And I mean that in the most respectful way. Because if she's got DID, I don't know who I'm talking to sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alter-wise, If there's no, if she's unresolved, do you know what I mean? So if she's unresolved,
then it could be one of the dissociative personalities that are coming out. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've had that so many times. I've learned, and this is
you
how
do.
I've learned. You do. And from like yourself and a few of the other people that I can find in quite a bit. And anyway, the police did get back in touch. They thanked me for the information, and they said, look, it won't be going any further. And then I was put back in touch. They were then speaking with the journalist, And the journalist ran back and said, look, it's been confirmed, the left arm is missing. So then I contact you and I say, right, what is it about the left arm? And of course, then you told me about the left side being what they call the devil's side, the sinister. And you know, I checked it up, and yeah, it is. It is the Latin word and the Italian word for left, sinister. And it's and the strange thing is, I was speaking to a guy, and he said, you know, he was from sub-Saharan Africa, and he said the young African virgins are told to lay on their left side because the jinns, the demons, can't get in. Because if they lay on the right side, the left, and they leave themselves open, and you're sitting there thinking, well, there's something in this.
Because that's the most common protection is close up, lie on the left, and they definitely can't. And that across all of Africa, I would say every mother will know to tell their child sleep on the left, because it will keep all of that at bay. And that's been passed down for years and years and years. It's a good piece of advice.
Yeah, and the other strange thing is, the lady said, look, there was 2 places that this occurred, and one of them was an army base in the Republican side of it, and she said they always favoured the army bases. You know, they would always be favoured. That not that I'm saying soldiers are involved in all that, but
it's because also the disused ones seem to be the favoured, because they on the perimeter they've got a lot of buildings that are not really used anymore, and they don't bother going out there.
Well, it gets even better. So one of them was called Finner Camp, and you look it up. It is a massive site in Northern Ireland on the Republican side, but on Finner Camp, like in England, we've got Salisbury Plain, which is military plain. It's ancient grounds, so the public have no right of access, and you're not allowed any archaeological digging. And when you look at Finner Camp, it's megalithic burial sites. It's old, ancient, pagan, megalithical burial sites. So that the pagans have worshipped on that land for centuries, maybe thousands of years.
Could be thousands,
they've worshipped on these pagan sites. And of course, when the military take it, it stops the prying eyes of the public. And when you look at archaeology and theology and theologian, I went to a talk once, and they were saying that when they try and find the bones of the giants, of the ancients, and these are people that have studied it, and they studied the pre-diluvial, the floods, the pre-Genesis times, and there's an academic study behind this. This isn't just mad craziness. About the giants on the earth. They said we can't get there because the military have taken all these lands. They turn them into training lands, and you can't get on them.
No surprise there.
Yeah, and
every which way you go, they shut you down. They shut you down.
But what I find amazing, Beverly, is the fact that as much as you want to dig in to disprove this, to say actually this is all nonsense, and this is just a satanic panic and all that, you end up being hit with more evidence to say there's more to this. There's more to this, and there's always more to it. And again, water has a major part in ritual abuse. The elements do, and there's all these things that you can, I'm not saying that all murders, and dump bodies are going to be caught up in this, but if we have some sort of understanding that when we turn up at a crime scene, we have to look at all options, and we got to look at firstly the body as a crime scene. How is that body laid out? Is it laid out that someone has just staggered and died, or has it been dumped, or actually is it laid out in some sort of formation?
Exactly.
Is there more to it? Now, it was really strange because someone was found, one was found dumped, and their private parts have been covered. And the guy I worked with went, "Do you know what? That's someone who's going to be older, more mature, and probably got a respectable job." And I went, "Well, why?" He went, "Because they've actually, as despicable it is, they are maintaining that person's dignity. Whereas a young, reckless individual would have all the bits hanging out do you know what I mean? In an appalling manner. But it just shows that there was so you can get a lot from it. But then we got to look at the location. And the other thing is the dates.
1 second, John. I'm just checking in. You guys are okay?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
We got a lovely message from Danny. Danny just sent us a lovely message in the chat. And she said, do we realize how important Beverly and John are on this broadcast? For years, they have dedicated with each other, speaking with each other and others to share the reality of this planet and the dark systems. I salute you both. Well, actually, we salute you too, Danny. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
Danny, we need to get you back on. We need to get you back on. Ron's got not even just focusing entirely on freaking things in the sky, because there is some Jersey questions I've got going on in my brain right now.
I'm sure.
Look, likewise.
Let me check you guys were all okay.
Yeah.
If for any reason like something happens and John needs to go or anything like that, babe, and I'm away, just call me and I'll come straight back. I'm just going to go and double check and just touch base again with Julia. I will not be long.
Okay, lovely.
So what I want to look at, Beverly, in this is I want to start seeing how many police departments globally take this seriously. And
I think there will be quite a few, because I have contacts all over the world and I help them in the same way that I've been helping you, explaining what's happening. But they all seem to be at different levels, you know, and we know that some understand it more fully. They've got their own little playbook on if that is like that and if this is like that, then that's what that means, which I think is quite helpful actually, because then they know what they're looking at. And I think there are others that realize this stuff happening. There's an undercurrent and an underbelly, but they don't really know what to look for at the time. So once again, it's about education. And this is part of the crime theory now, is bringing in this other area that people can ask questions about things they've seen, about aspects that perhaps have helped. And, you know, some of the new unalived cases that I'm working on, there is some of the ritualistic blood magic happening with some of them, and we're looking into specific things. However, what they're doing is they're having to pay, believe it or not, private investigators now, because with the country that they're in, there isn't anybody within the current police force that can help. But more importantly, they're so under-resourced. They just can't go out. They can't go out and do the investigations. Not enough people on the ground.
But what I do is, privately, I'm going to share a document with you. And the document, it was written it's a statement, and it was written by a street prostitute who really the police weren't taking her seriously. So she went to an outreach worker who works with street girls. And she said, you need to know this. And what she was saying was that when she buys her heroin, the guy said, look, there's an easier way of making money. I'm prepared to give you £2,000. All you got to do is
bring the children.
Well, not only that, get pregnant. Get pregnant and come to me. You won't feel a thing. We'll take you to a clinic. So when she was due, she'd be taken to a clinic, have the baby. It was taken away. She got £2,000, and she said it was not a regular thing, but it happened common enough, and her colleagues were. And she said, I know that these babies are going for ritual abuse. And this was in central London. This was in Waterloo and the Earls Court area. And I actually served this on the law enforcement team that are looking into this. I've said, look, I'll pass this document over to you. This is real.
It is.
It goes on and on and on. And so this is what I want to do, is get this cohesion of different departments that have had success. And look, so successful was Ralph Sarchi, Detective Sergeant Ralph Sarchi of the NYPD, with his murder investigations. So if anything had any inferring that had occultic links, he would be called in. It would be handed over to him, but he would just be given his opinion. And then if it was, he would then work with a Vatican appointed exorcist, Malachi Martin, and they were highly successful. And they made a film, Hollywood made a film about it called Deliver Us from Evil.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And it goes to also the patterns, it goes to show there's a spike in ritual abuse and demonic worship post-war. So when you get, like we said about the spiritualist churches, they had a huge spike with guys returning back from the Iraq Gulf Wars in America.
We're going to be experiencing another one quite soon, because some of the individuals that I'm working with, they've actually said that there's very definitely a spike that's expected towards the sort of middle to end of December, because this whole cycle, planetary cycle, is moving and changing right up until the last day of December. We've got sort of 22nd, 23, 24. That energy is going to change considerably. And then you've got the move away from towards the new Jerusalem, towards what they're calling the new cabal that have been brought in to take over. And that is meant to sort of start at its pinnacle, which is going to be midnight on the 23rd. So we've got all of this that's happening as we go into Christmas, which most individuals won't feel it, won't realize it, but at the right levels, that there will be a feeling and a change.
This is one thing survivors say, that the real importance in dates are highly important.
Exactly.
And also the when they can induce births, they will induce them on certain dates.
Yes.
They can get a whereabout time, but they will induce it because it needs to be. Whereas Christianity is not important, but when it comes to Satanism, they're regimented with their dates.
They need an entry date. Yeah, they need an entry date.
And when you look at the satanic calendar as well, it's very interesting, and what gets me, it's so ancient and established. And we had witchcraft laws that were brought in because of the issues they had. I was researching the work of Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, that was sort of going around the UK and just, well, they basically saying he was just killing any woman that he thought was a witch who had a cat and all this. But when you actually look at the research into the guy, there was a lot of fairness in the trials. And, this probably is making me open to a lot of mockery and all that. But, and there's been a lot of jokes made about him that if a woman had a black cat, she was cast as a witch. And all villages had the duck install, and they would have witch trials and things like the witch floated.
Yeah, there's a ducking stool. There's a ducking stool. I've seen one. Where was it now? I think it was in Canterbury. We were on one of these little boats that were going down the river, and the guy that was making sure that we were steering correctly, because we're not great even driving and doing things, but we looked up and he said, have a look up to, I think it was to the left, and he says that's the remnants of the ducking stool, and actually it's still there. And he was explaining about the stool and what was happening and things like that, and you could see all of that quite easily, and it's still part of the law of Canterbury.
But he was actually doing quite comprehensive investigations, and his conclusion was because of Christian laws, we should not suffer a witch to live, with things like that written in there. He said that they must be put to death, and this is what, after extensive investigations, take it out what you will. That's what he was doing. Now, again, we had a spike in cases of witchcraft post First World War, and we still had the Witchcraft Act, right? And do you know who got rid of the Witchcraft Act? Two individuals got together and got it written out of British law, and they worked together.
Who was that?
Aleister Crowley and Winston Churchill.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They worked together to get rid of the witchcraft laws. Yeah. So, why would you even bother if it was nonsense? So we got one of the most classed or most wickedest man who ever lived working in cahoots with a prime minister that everyone thinks is a hero. I mean, I don't. I've got the opposite opinion of Winston Churchill. I think he was a very, very evil man. I don't think he was a good man at all. And his parents were despicable. They both died of syphilis, and that his mum was classed as the whore of the aristocracy.
Yeah, a bit of a swinger.
Yeah, with every single king and prince of Europe, and died of syphilis, and he's the offspring of that. But we see it all the time, and it's and also the huge resurgence of witchcraft and these amalgamations of witchcraft in Mexico. Mexico is really selling its soul.
When I went to Mexico, we went to Chichen Itza, and we were looking at some of the pyramids. They're like a pyramid, and we were looking at some of the, they've got all sorts of very intricate pieces of work going on the side. And the guide was saying that when the sun is at a particular area, there is like a snake that comes down the size of the pyramid. So that was very interesting. But I must admit, when we were there, it was quite hot, but the energy was just so compressed, and it was so pushed together. And eventually, I mean, we followed the tour guide around, and we did everything we could. And eventually I just said, it's so oppressive, and the energy is so thick and heavy. I just couldn't breathe. So I said to my partner, let's start slowly walking back, because it was already, by that time, it was quite warm. And I said, let's start walking back towards the van that we all came in, because we were in like a tour group. And then we can at least sit in the trees and just, get a bit better, get out of this repressive, very, very heavy energy. And we had to get quite far away from these units, and we eventually got back to near where the car park was, and we were sitting in these little benches under the tree, and we managed to sit under there really far away from everything, and we were able to gather our breath. So it is where there's human sacrifices and those sort of things, that energy is retained.
What's happening is that there's such an economy being made out of the drug and human trafficking now, and the corruption that comes from it, and the death tolls, especially in the border towns. And these young bucks that are coming through that criminal network are going. They're walking away from, because it was a staunch Catholic country. It was very similar to Southern Ireland. Very, very much into our Mother Mary and that sort of worship. And they've turned their back on it. You've got countries like Tijuana and there's a very, very famous one, infamous one. If name fails me again, it'll come back. But it's on the Rio Grande, and opposite it is some city in Texas, which has got a murder rate of 3 murders a year, and the other side of this, this river that flows is this the name will come in a minute. Juarez, that's it. It's got a murder rate of 6,000, and that's a conservative estimate, and the witchcraft that goes on there, because they are following this Santa Muerte, So you've gone mute again, Beverly.
It seems to do its own thing. We've got a pixie jumping in and out of my machine.
Yeah, but and it always seems to remind me of the voodoo, that that they will go, the human traffickers and then the gangsters and all that will go to the witch, the juju.
Did you ever work across the borders? When you were serving, were you apart from those that I know about? Did you work across the borders?
No, I did stuff abroad. Yeah, I did do bits and pieces abroad and work with some foreign things. But I went on. I was on an inquiry because it was our team that found the baby Adam, the muti killing of the young boy, the torso in the Thames.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember that one.
And strangely enough, that where the body was found on the shore of the Thames, there was a disused building. And when we went in there to look, it was pentagrams, there's all satanic stuff laid out. The body was found right at the base of this building. And it was really, really odd. Whether or not it was tied in, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. But It was never. It never really cropped up, but I was just too naive, really, to even know back then. It was only later on, and then when I started on child abuse, and I went to a really high crime area, very predominantly black area of North and East London, and that's when I started coming across voodoo and possessions, and we were taking children into care where the mothers were beating them, especially from the Jamaican family. And the social worker, we interviewed a girl, and she was saying that her mum, her voice changes and she turns into a man, and then she starts beating them. And she said no, and they were telling us, these young kids, they were saying, no, our mum becomes a man and she beats us, and it's juju. And I didn't have a clue what it was. And the social worker had been a social worker in Kingston, and she said, no, John, that's obia. And I said, well, what's that? She said, it's voodoo. And then the Congolese, the problems in the DRC occurred, and we started getting people that had come in from the Congo and from Brazzaville, and them French-speaking parts, and the same. They started saying the same. There was these churches that would crop up, and that's when we know, is it Ndoko or Kendoko, one of them. They started telling us about that. So that's when it started really creeping in that there was more to it, and
absolutely,
mainly amongst the African communities.
I think there's many communities. There's many communities that have this sort of area. I think that a lot of it is just suppressed, and people do keep the secrets because obviously they're in a country and they don't really want to get into too much trouble. But I think the more it becomes obvious and individuals are able to speak freely about it, maybe people will come forward and say, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. One of the chat said Ali Carter, who's one of the survivors, SRA survivors, and they were saying that maybe they should get involved, and maybe you two can have some contacts.
Yeah, of course. I would always share dialogue with them.
Yeah, that Ali Carter she's one that is. I mean, she's in hiding just now, John. She very rarely breaks silence. She is one of those ones that if you had a £10 million budget and a freaking, a way of doing stuff, you would be over there doing something. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Well, happily. I mean, talk to me in total confidence. That's no problem whatsoever. Funny enough, the national working group that has been set up now, which is trying to get government funding, run by an ex-copper, they getting more and more SRA survivors, and I'm getting contacted by them more and more now, and they just want to get out of it. But there was a thing called Project Violet was set up because so many cases were deemed as ritual murders, muti. Right? They couldn't keep it. No one really heard about it, but Project Violet was set up to look into this. And it's like we were saying.
Oh, he's frozen.
It's all nonsense. The opposite occurred. They realised, no, this is real.
That's good.
And what was bizarre was the demographics of it that came out. So there was Sri Lankan witchcrafts that was responsible for quite a few murders. Indonesian, and it was stuff I never even heard of. But it was all so consistent.
It is. Well, there's that golden thread of the same frequency and the energy, and all of that is everything runs through all of these cases. There seems to be a set of similarities. When you look at them, there's sort of like 4 or 5 things that are common to all of these cases that you and I have worked on. And when you start dissecting it and then looking at each of the areas, you then realize that perhaps the cases that we have here overseas and other countries, maybe they all feed into the same area, and maybe they're all part and parcel of same global elite events.
All right, let me just jump in here for 1 second, John. So what I'd like to say to everybody who's worried about Big Homie, all I'll say right now is I've video called with him. I've seen him. He's doing a lot better. He will be on, and I will have an update at 10:30. Hopefully the show will start at 10:30. But once he moves to a different location, we'll be making a decision on a start time. He's very, very keen to get this done, though, so don't worry. It's not going to, you know what I'm saying? But what I'd like to do is something that's popped up in the side chat that I'd like to throw at Beverly and John as sort of almost like the closing talking point. And a lot of people have been talking about this case, and that's Joe
Ramsey, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm sadly going to miss your guys' take on this because I've got to go through and Dan. I'm just going to check on Dan, check on dinner and things like that. It's a madness here today. But if you guys could talk about that, I know a lot of people in the side chat would appreciate it. I just want to make sure you like and subscribe. Can we push this out? Make sure that when this stream ends, obviously you'll know when that happens because I'll tell you. You will be shunted over to the big homie stream. So I'm just so you know. So just stay tuned. I will be posting the big homie stream link. I want you all over there. I want you over there sharing it because the story
with Azria.
Yeah,
so Azria will be there too, and the report has arrived on homie as well. We've got the report too, so that's ready to be shared, and we'll be all systems go. It's going to be.
I'll be honest with you. The off-world DNA results is mind-blowing enough. But the story time with Big Homie that's going to come tonight is going to absolutely... A lot of you are going to take an extra 40 minutes getting to sleep tonight because you're going to be pondering an equation that your brain just cannot solve.
Yes.
Okay, so John, Beverly, John Bonnet Ramsey, what's your takes on it? I'll let you lead this one, John, and I'll be back shortly.
Well, if we put the spiritual element and all that to one side, with these kids pageants, I mean, who would, I don't know whether it's sexualization of children, but why would you even do that to a young girl? These kids pageants, I've seen them. I think they're appalling. I think they're perverted, and it's odd. It's weird.
Yeah. What was your take on, because I know there was a lot of flurry around I think they had originally said, the police officers had said that they had confirmation that it was the brother who'd actually gone ahead and unalived the child. What was your take on that?
I heard that even the name Bonnet Ramsey had some sort of occultic significance. There was something that cropped up, but it's all very odd. It's weird. I can see an underlying perversion around all of this. With the father, the mother. I just think it's wrong. I think it's sick. I think it shouldn't happen. Shouldn't even be having these child pageants. It's years ago, I started working as an intelligence officer, getting information for the paedophile unit at Scotland Yard, and then it went further and started doing it for the National Crime Squad and the National Criminal Intelligence Service and stuff like that. And one of the things that they had covert officers working on was there was a magazine called H&E, Health and Efficiency, and it was all to do with these naturists, people that walk around naked and go on these holidays naked, and which I find horrible anyway. But it was just seen as, eccentric, maybe some sort of middle class pastime or whatever that posh people did. And they had this magazine, and every year there would be a meeting, and they would have a pageant, right? And a part of it was the children's parade, and it was all kids all dolled up, but all naked. Everyone's naked, right? We don't know who they are. They just subscribe to this British Naturist Society, and they go to this camp somewhere in southern England, and they all walk around naked with their kids naked, no boundaries, nothing, uninhabited, and they think this is morally healthy and physically healthy and all that deluded nonsense that goes through these weirdos' brains, right? So they had a kids pageant. So when they would announce it, some guy would come in with his willy hanging out and say, now what we've all been waiting for, the child's pageant. And they would parade these young girls in naked, little girls, this Litland's age, right? And what the police managed to do was get someone, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to get them with a camera behind the stage, so it would take photos at the crowd. And what this guy said to me that was there, he said it was like a thunderstorm, lightning had hit the stage because of all the flashlights from the cameras. As soon as naked little girls come on,
Good Lord.
they'd had a beauty competition, they'd all men coming in with, you know, bits out and all that. Nothing, your light here and there. As soon as these girls come, bang, bang, bang. And what my colleague's job was to do was to film those that were filming it. And from there, it was one of the biggest ways that I identified active
the PDFs.
PDFs.
Yes.
Yeah, no. So when they say, "Oh, it's just notice," no, it's not. It is a haven for PDFs, and I think these
hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, and whatever happened to that girl, those that are into that sort of thing, I think it is just a very thin veneer and a veil of some sort of bizarre, distorted respectability, but beneath are monsters, and shame on the mothers, shame on the fathers, and shame on anyone that endorses it and allows it to go on. Shame on the people that rent the halls or you know, allow it the ticket, but anything to do with that sort of child pageantry is sick in the head as far as I'm concerned. I did know a bit more about it. I did research it when I was looking into the murder of Sarah Payne, because you can draw quite a lot of parallels. And this is one of the things that I wanted to mention to you before the interjection of John Benet Ramsey, was that when we, Ron and myself, started looking into the abduction and the murder of young girls, mainly young girls.
Yeah.
The boy's name was Brian McDermott. It's just come to my mind, Brian McDermott.
There you go. Right,
but we looked at quite a few, and we were drawing parallels, and it was incredulous how the suspects knew each other, right?
But that's not difficult. I mean, when I drew up the whole structure, if you remember, I drew that up for you and explained what each of them
the pyramid,
the ones at the bottom, they will all know each other, and those, particularly the operatives on the ground, they do all know each other because they're all linked, because they have to be. And that's part of that whole secret society within the PDF regions. They have to do that because that's where they get their money from. That's how they're financed, and that's how they find their prey.
Yep. And it was funny when we did that pyramid of Satanism, as it were. I was contacted by someone whose job as a child was to sit in the window of Elm Guest House and alert them if anyone was coming, and they was one of the watchers. And as you said, they would have these people, and they would have kids secreted all over, and their job is to just watch. And this person said, "Yeah, no, my job was to sit in Elm Guest House and look out the window and tell them whenever a car was coming they didn't know, or whatever."
Pre-warning system before there was, good CCTV and mobile phones and and what do they call it? Motion activated surveillance systems. Yes, that was definitely all part of it.
And the other thing that goes with this is that there's always a fall guy. So I think that some of these, in fact, quite a lot of them, I think the murder of Leslie Mulseed, again, a young girl similar to this little one that we saw there, was found on the moors of Yorkshire with stab wounds in her back. A girl very, very thin, small for her age, multiple stab wounds, and that they put it on one guy who said that he was a murderer. I think it was a ritual killing, and as long as and in the murder of Leslie Mulseed, the senior officer screwed up the investigation, was removed. He was then transferred from one part of Yorkshire to another. He then went on to lead the Ripper inquiry, the Yorkshire Ripper inquiry, and made the biggest screw up, cover up, whatever it might be in history, involving sexual murders of women. Right? Coincidence? Well, I don't think so. But what they did was they stitched up a guy called Stefan Klitschko, who was retarded, basically. He was a 30-year-old guy who was retarded, and he served 15 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. And he served terrible hard time in prison and was assaulted almost on a daily basis. And he died prematurely upon release as a result of the treatment he received in prison.
Wow.
But the point is, if Leslie Molseed, if Sarah Payne and Brian McDermott and so many of these other children that were killed, I don't want to rub salt into the wounds of any surviving parent or cause any distress. I don't want to do that. But if we was to broaden our thinking a bit, and we was to put, again, it's not a satanic panic. It's the reality of Satanism and the need for blood sacrifices. And the ultimate one are child's blood sacrifices. We can accept that it's animal blood, right? And the bigger the animal, the bigger the power. But we can't accept that a human sacrifice would go on. Yeah, it does. And we can see this biblically in the Old Testament. It goes on. So, you know, and we see this with muti killings and the other stuff we've discussed on there.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if we were to say that there could potentially be this conspiracy to abduct and to ritually murder a child for spiritual, monetary, and positional gain,
yeah,
right? Then we have a criminal network and a threat to our children beyond any comfort reasoning, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, and it would frighten all of society, and they probably would never rest. But if we then say, well, actually, these are all murdered by this boy with Down syndrome or this mentally defected idiot, we're going to stick him away. Everyone can sit back and go, they've caught the bad guy. We can move on with life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
because there will be pressure.
They need to be able to hide it. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we need an ogre. We need a fall guy to put this on.
Yeah, and that's why we've got the situation with Diddy, and we've got the alleged situation with Jay-Z, and all the other sort of the white parties, and all this information that's coming out with Busby, with the solicitor, and the things that he's moving forward. I actually think the latest case, where a part of it he's going to have to retract, and he's going to have to resubmit his papers, because I don't think he's actually licensed to work in the area that he is working in at the moment. So I think he'll have to retract it, change it, because he'll need another solicitor or attorney to stamp it and sign it, because that was the biggest problem with the documents that he put through yesterday. He's going to have to make sure that he gets it signed and goes through the proper channels, and then at least it will stay within the system. But I think that he has what is called procedural incorrectness, which I'm sure you're fully aware of that.
Which, again, and sometimes this can be very convenient that they do that, that they deliberately put someone in there that isn't licensed or isn't that, and then they can redline the whole thing and say, well, sorry about that. And this is a case because, especially when it comes to offending,
yes,
you need to be licensed and trained for everyone. Even an interpreter, if they're brought in to sit in an interview, they've got to be trained and vetted to that right the way through. And this is how I got used to get information through about the McCann inquiry, because it was a child murderer and things like that. So when you work in that very small environment, you all know each other, and the information that we would get back. And when I got people will say that I don't name names, but I'd go to prison, I'd get sued,
you would get sued. You would absolutely get sued.
I'm not doing it. If you can't draw an inference from what I'm saying, then I can't get to you. Your intellect won't allow it. So choose another topic to look into. But I would hear about household names, and am I surprised? The very naive, ignorant me, I would be surprised. But like you, baby,
not actually.
No,
not actually.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Well, thank you.
And you can see people like that P. Diddy and all that. They're just wallowing in their own ego and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of it. Thank you so much, John, for answering loads of questions and doing all of your amazing work. And I really enjoy working with you. I must admit, I'm so pleased the secret's out now. That
I know.
everyone knows we work together.
You was just my contact. Or you say my contacts told me. So this goes to prove that I never betray my sources.
No, you never did betray your sources.
So we work very well, and we've had some brilliant success, and I'm ever so grateful. And it was an education that I wouldn't have got from any other source. So,
and you're doing the work of the light. You've got to make sure that you've got all your facts.
And recently we had a conversation regarding a well-known celebrity who seems to have changed their ways but hadn't. So we'll have to leave people guessing with that one. Yes. And we had a chat about that. So look, I'm going to have to go because I need to drink tea and other things.
Go and drink tea. I'm going to drink tea too. Our Ron is here.
Both. Thank you both for holding down the fort. Sorry for leaving you in the lurch. Sorry, side chat, that your hosts for most of the night couldn't see you guys. Stay tuned. Go over to the big homie chat. I'm going to be in the side chat. Beverly, John, thank you. It's Mods, thank you.
Later, Bev.
Thank you. See you soon, John.
See you in the next one, guys. Thanks, Bev. Peace.
Bye.